That would have been inconvenient. We need a stenographer. Anyway, the recordings will be at kenspencer.com, which I've got posted up here. And if you go to classes, you'll have a list of them, and I'm going to update this first page on it because it shows one of my last classes. But if you go here and it says Ken's Video Archive, that takes you right to YouTube. And all my classes are up there. Again, they're unedited. They're what you see on the screen and what you hear, so you can go through them as you want. But you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I gain nothing by this. It's really a convenience for you. But if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, it'll just give you a reminder when a new one gets posted. Like every other Sunday, I teach up at Best Buy, and that's a beginning basic Mac class that I do. I record those. I did yesterday an iOS 8.1 at the Renaissance Society, so I recorded most of that. So they're all up there, and they're just for your own edification, and use them, don't use them, I don't care. But a lot of times you're all really good about taking notes, but sometimes it's like, it's a little fuzzy, and I know I go too fast because I've got so much I want to get in, and I get so excited about this. So. Anyway, the other things I'll mention is Empower Mac. Pete Losey and myself, I do come out and do tech support and things like that on site with you guys. But we have next weekend, Empower Mac. Pete's going to cover the new Keynote, and if you've been in one of Pete's pages or Keynote classes, you will not forget it because it's amazing the depth that he goes into in this. And of course, the beauty of it now is Keynote on the Mac is exactly the same as Keynote in Safari and Keynote on your Mac. Same with Pages. So it's 3-hour classes, starts at 10, and you have a 3-hour class, 10 to 1, then we take a lunch break, and then it's 2 to 5 for the afternoon class. If you've never been doing a Empower Mac class, the first class is always free. Otherwise, it's $39 for a single class, $99 for the whole weekend of 4 classes. And we have our own little multi-level marketing Bernie Madoff scheme where if your first class is free, and if you bring someone to a class that's never been there, their class is free, and you get a free class out of it. So, hey, free's good. The other thing it's going to be is on Sunday, he's going to do Pixelmator for iPad. We have Pixelmator for the Mac. He's going to work on Pixelmator for the iPad, and Pixelmator is a bit of a replacement for Photoshop, and it's really reasonable. It's very, very good. On the iPad, I can't remember if it's $9.99 or $4.99 or something, but it's really inexpensive, and I think it's like $29 on your Mac. But Pixelmator allows you to do some tips and tricks, and since this is the last Empower Mac of the season, he's going to go over, you always do holiday projects like cards or DVDs, etc., like that. So Pete always does that because this is the last one before next year. So, and then going into the next year, we're going to have new Photos app for this. When that comes out, we'll discuss that. He'll probably have a Yosemite class, and Pete will be the speaker for the next general meeting, going over the ins and outs of Yosemite. He always finds these little nuggets, these little kernels of great things that are buried in there, and so that'll be a good one to attend. How many were at the general meeting on our 30th anniversary? Was it, I mean, it felt like it was a pretty good vibe. Everybody have a good time? We had to bribe everybody, to get there, but it was good. The whole board did a great job on that. We're going to be doing in fact, if any of you have any feedback on that, please let me know after the class because we're going to do our debriefing at the board meeting today. So, and congratulations to Zulay, who is continuing. She won the election to continue as vice president, and Curtis as member at large, and then Rocky was the write-in vote for the other member at large. And he's back on the board now, which is great. He's been very helpful. All right, enough of that. There's MacNexus. Oh, let's see what I'm supposed to cover today. Okay, good. All right, so anyway, again, this will be at kenspencer.com. Click on classes, click on class video archive. I'll probably tomorrow or so I'll put a better link up there so it'll be more apparent. And again, that's at kenspencer.com. Capitalization doesn't matter. So, right off the bat, let's get rid of those. Yosemite, first of all, one of my favorite places on Earth, and it was the 150th year anniversary of Yosemite, and consequently, Hang on here. That's why the default screenshot is this of Half Dome, which I years ago went to the top of. It's pretty amazing. But Yosemite's great. It's they're using California landmarks. That's what Mavericks was. 10.9 was Mavericks, which was for a very popular wave surf spot near Half Moon Bay, which is where they have the big wave contest every year that you hear about. There's like a month span when they wait for the big storm waves to come in. Anyway, so now it's Yosemite. I don't know what's going forward from there. I don't see La Jolla as being the next one, or Oakland. I don't think we'll get that. So it's kind of California landmarks. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do Cupertino. Maybe they're waiting till the new spaceship campus is done, and then they'll do Cupertino. So, first question is, can you run Yosemite? And if you're currently running, if your computer currently runs Mavericks, you should be able to run Yosemite, no problem. And it doesn't appear that it breaks any real things, because when I say breaks, in other words, a lot of times when you upgrade the OS, things get left behind. There's not a big fundamental difference between 10.9 Mavericks and 10.10 as far as the things that might break. But what they've done is they've made it very streamlined behind the scenes, and they've given us this new, what they call flat look. And the old OS used to have skeuomorphism. Remember, the notepad looked like a legal pad. The calendar, the address book was like a leather-bound address book. So the indication was that was getting a little dated, and they wanted to go flat is kind of what's in, so this is called flat. And what I find amazing is I've always said in like the last version of Mail that what Apple did is they started making, first of all, they made all the things blue. Now here at least, in fact.
Are you running Yosemite on your computer here?
This is Yosemite right now. Yeah. So so let's talk about that. Well, first we'll go back to the screen, whether your computer can run it or not. So these are the computers that can run Yosemite. Now, people think that Apple is kind of always trying to obsolete things. But this goes back to an iMac from 2007. I mean, that's what, a 7-year-old machine now? And it's running. Now, obviously, there's some other newer ones in here, but what there are some some things that are tied in between this and the iOS that unless you have a machine that's 2012 or newer, you can't accomplish. And what that is this thing called continuity. And what continuity is, we're not trying to meld the iOS into the Mac OS. What it's trying to do is give you the ability to do what's called handoffs, to receive a phone call, different things like that. If it comes into your, Al Trivet says hi to everybody that's usually here. He's in Washington, D.C. He's, actually, you guys know Al. I'll pull this up on the screen. And my other good friend is at the U.S. Grand Prix in Texas, which is I'm jealous of. Anyway, I'll pull that up later. He's pointing up at the Washington Monument. So these things called continuity and handoffs only are supported in certain, and it's weird. It has to do with the hardware requirement. If your computer was made from 2012 or newer, you can do these handoffs. And what a handoff is, and I have to describe it because this doesn't support it. I've got a special part on order that I may be able to trick it to support it, but for the time being, my 2011 MacBook Pro, which I dearly love, doesn't support it. I just got a 27-inch iMac that does support it. I didn't get the new Retina, but it will support it. So what happens is, if I'm doing a handoff, actually I'll give you an example here. Let me fire up Reflector, which is where you can see my devices. Okay. Cheryl, if you can give me a buzz. So I'm going to show how it works from an iOS device to an iOS device since my Mac doesn't support it, but it's pretty visual. So my phone is on the left. Cheryl's giving me a call. It stopped QuickTime. Hang on here. Come on. This is weird. Cheryl, hang up. Yeah, don't let it go to voicemail. Hang up. It recorded that ringing call, so hang on here. This isn't good. And it won't let me get out of it. Okay. There we go. So let's see if our movie is still recording. I'm going to pause the movie recording for a second. I think that messed it up, so let me quit QuickTime. So I'll put the movies together.
What versions of the iPad and iPhone are necessary?
So for handoffs like that, it has to be 8.1, which is introduced by Apple. I think it was on the 16th or whatever when Yosemite was introduced too. So we had iOS 8 that was introduced at the iPhone event. And then we had 8.1 that came out shortly thereafter, which in 8.1 enabled two things. It enabled the Apple Pay if you have a 6 or a 6 Plus. I'm going to talk about Apple Pay a little later because I've had good experience with it, and there's some controversy out there. But also, that's when Yosemite was released, and Yosemite ties in with this kind of handoffs. Now, if I go back here, and if I'm in Safari, let's see if this works.
Does it matter which Mac you have, as long as you have Yosemite?
No, you have to have a 2012 or newer for it to support the handoff portion of this, okay? And it has to do with a little piece of hardware called, it's a Bluetooth piece of hardware. And it's Bluetooth LE because this is on all the time and you don't want your iOS device or your iPhone to be using a lot of energy. So Bluetooth LE is Bluetooth low energy, and it wasn't really in place until 2012 and newer. So while Yosemite can do other things, it can only accomplish the handoff if you have a computer that's 2012 or newer or thereabouts. And there's a sheet on here. I'll probably put together the links because I've got quite a few links I'm going to reference today, and I'll put those together on the website for you guys. Go ahead, Charles. Good question. So his question was, does the iPad have to have a cellular connection also? No. It's using the phone as a slave. In fact, I have a cellular iPad, but I was just on Wi-Fi. So you wouldn't even have to necessarily be on Wi-Fi because it's doing it over Bluetooth. But Wi-Fi is kind of like its fallback, and so it sees it. So yeah, it's a great question, but no, it does not have to be cellular because we know this doesn't have cellular, and it can do the same thing. So that's where this continuity and this handoff thing, and I mean, it's really unique when you think about it. And how comfortable and nice is that? Every Mac except the Mac Mini has a speaker and a microphone. Now, you can add a speaker and microphone to a Mac Mini, but your iMac has it, etc. So it's wonderful. Go ahead.
Isn't that the same thing FaceTime is already doing?
Yeah, so the question is that the same thing FaceTime is already doing? FaceTime, think of it more like Skype. It's Apple device to Apple device. Skype can go from Apple to PC. But we're talking about now using a regular cell phone call. She called my iPhone, and it showed here. It has nothing to do with FaceTime. It's, in fact, coming into my phone, and my phone is saying on my other devices, hey, Cheryl's calling. Do you want to answer it? Well, which one do you want to answer it for? Now, I made the mistake a couple times as I'm looking at my iPad, and I have a magnetic closure that shuts my iPad off, and then I go pick up the phone, and I have just cut off the conversation because I didn't answer it from here. So there's a learning curve for me, too, on that. So I haven't quite figured that one out, but now I just say, well, I'll just answer it from the damn iPad because it's convenient.
But
Keith?
for this to work, it has to be on Wi-Fi network.
No. Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
The part of it is Bluetooth LE, but I think the Wi-Fi is like a backup. We can try that later. I'll maybe try it during the break. I'll see. But it's what happens on these devices. The Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi card are the same card, and that's the part that has to be 2012 or newer. Back there first.
If you forget the computer for a moment, you have an iPad.
I try
and
to,
phone,
but it's not going to work.
81. Can you answer the phone with the iPad?
Yes, that's the computer. So remember, my computer won't do handoffs.
Yes.
I answered the phone call from my iPad.
Do you have to have that reflector?
No. Reflector, okay, it's a good question. Reflector is what displays my iPad and my iPhone on the computer.
Oh, okay.
That's only something I use as a tool for showing you guys.
Last night I got a call from my daughter with a picture, but it didn't come through on my iPad.
With a picture, was it FaceTime?
Yeah.
That's different.
Oh, okay.
And it should come through on your iPad too, so you may have FaceTime off on your iPad. But FaceTime's its own separate animal, which we've had for a while, and I can tell everybody's already experts at it. I hate video calls, but by the way, FaceTime does audio only now, which is wonderful. Because I multitask. I hate video calls and video conferencing because I'm always doing other stuff while I'm on the call. FaceTime audio is wonderful and the quality's fantastic, but remember, that's Apple device to Apple device. Apple device to Apple device only. You can make a FaceTime call to and from your iPhone, your iPad, etc. And if you make it from your iPhone, you're just using the data side. You're not using minutes, but most of us are getting unlimited plans these days and things like that. So back there, Leslie?
How do you date this audio?
Oh, in the call, you can accept it as just audio, or when you go out, you say FaceTime audio call, okay?
This is a letter that you gave me for those of us who have not. And it's saying, it's up what you should do, letter. You know, what you should do before you download. I think you should download.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I just wanted to show this handouts because that's the thing here. But let's go ahead, Marion. I'm going to pull up the page here. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify on this wall thing. If my computer doesn't support this transfer, but my iPad and my iPhone do, it won't work?
It will work. Every device is completely independent and autonomous in that this doesn't do it, so it's as good as my computer not being here.
Okay.
We just showed that it worked. And it's actually been working since 8.1 came out. It worked before I had Yosemite. So just like people think that their iPhone syncs with their computer and all that, no. It's like they sync with this spot in the cloud. But let's go back to it. Well, first, before I go to his very valid point, I want to show you something. If you look at my iPad on the screen, well, that's... If you try to look at my iPad on the screen, oh, I know what I have to do here. Hang on. Maybe Reflector has stalled. Okay, let's reload that page. See, before we talked about it, there was a little Safari logo that showed up right here. I'll come back to it when it miraculously appears. Oh, I got to make sure we're all on this. It's on the same. Let's see here. Let's put this on Safari. Excuse the little technical glitch here. This is interesting. All right, I'll have to check what it's doing. Back to the iPad, go to Safari, go here. Because the other part of handoffs, before I get into what you, there we go. Look on my iPhone, right here. See this? If I tap that, it takes me to the same web page that's here. So if I was in a Pages document, that would show up as a Pages document, and I click it and it goes over to the, that's the handoff, and you'll have the same thing on the Mac. So again, it was a little icon down in the corner when you're on your lock screen. And let's change this page to Micromat for some reason. Oh, let's just do Intel base. There we go. So now I'm loading on my, I've loaded this. Now that's not a good example because that's the page. Oh, actually that's not bad. So let's go back here. So now I tap this icon, I move up, I unlock my phone, and now this will load with the same page I have here. Again, if I'm doing a text message, if I'm doing an email, you carry it over to your other device, and the beauty of it is, if you think about it, you've just pulled into your house, and you're kind of doing a text, and it's a long text or it's a long email, and you walk up and you unfurl your iPad, you immediately can go over and complete it on your iPad. And they're in sync, so to speak, in this case, one to one another, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And if this is a 2012 or newer, your Mac, it will support handoffs also. Okay? So question here, and then we'll give it to you.
How close do they have to be?
If they, I don't know this for sure. Obviously, if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, no problem at all. But because it uses the Bluetooth, I think that it will work with that, or it's something in concert. I haven't had a chance to test it, because when I'm really going to test it is with the iMac that I got that supports it, so I can really get down to it. But you know, realistically, if you're at your house, they're going to be on the same Wi-Fi, but I think it can do it without it. I'm going to test that during the break by taking my iPad off of Wi-Fi, or my iPhone off of Wi-Fi, and see what happens there. Okay?
I'm probably using my unlimited data, right? I'm not choosing to use my...
This actually isn't using your data, so good question. Is it using your unlimited data? No, because this is a device-to-device connection.
Maybe it wouldn't work in a big house if you're not on the wire.
It won't go over your cellular network.
Right.
Yeah. As far as I know, I'm not 100% on that, but I don't think it would, because that would be, you know, for a lot of people on low plans, that would be untenable. And realistically, you shouldn't need that. The device is syncing to itself. There was a question back there?
I think I understand. The reason I couldn't find that on mine, even though is because I don't have Wi-Fi on here. Is that why?
But do you have an iPad? You have to have both devices on.
Oh, I got it.
But it'll work. Are you on 8.1 on both devices?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll test it during the break. Let's move on from there, because a question on that?
No, just, is this only for handing off communications such as phone calls, or is it for handing off applications too, where you're trying to finish the speech and word processing?
If you have the application on both, so Pages works just fine. Other developers may or may not allow it, but Apple is opening this up to let developers use a lot of this stuff. But Apple's first and foremost concern is security. So there's maybe certain things they don't allow yet, or they have to get approval for that. And that a lot has to do with the Apple developer. But Apple has really sandboxed this really nice to let people use it. And as you know, you have custom keyboards and stuff now that you can use, which Apple has finally opened up. Is this on handoffs? Go ahead.
Does that mean all your documents files have to be on every one of your devices?
Well, they should be anyway, because they're in the cloud. That's why you want to make your Pages document on the cloud. But in this case, it's seeing the document on both, but they're really, one's looking at the other rather than looking at the cloud for making your changes. And by the way, after the first of the year, I'm going to talk about this a bit, but Photos will be doing the same thing. Back to his pertinent question. Let me get this out of the way. Should you upgrade to Yosemite? And if you decide to, what should you do? First off, those of you that upgraded to Yosemite, other than the different interface, have there been any problems?
No.
What was your problem? And you have it on a note. She's ready with it. Great.
Fine, except I have the snapshots for keynote pages and numbers. It says this update is not available for this app ID
That's not a Yosemite issue. But what that is that when you purchase an app, it's tied to an Apple ID. Even if it's a free app like Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Yeah. Was that on your iPad or your Mac? So it has to do with how it was purchased. You may have to log out of that Apple ID and back in. That's a whole nother deal. That's not a Yosemite flaw. What it is you're trying to update one of the apps and it's doing that. But I can maybe address that at the end for you, hopefully. Well, behind, you go.
This is a good program. At Macintosh.com, people write in and say what problems they're having.
Well, of course, that's there's a ton of those things out there. But yeah, I mean, that's why I want to poll this group, because I think you get a fair cross-section of it, because the only people that write into those are those that have had problems. You don't hear them glorifying how nice it was. So yeah, there are some issues. There always is in an update. But to be honest, many times those problems have to do with the applications that other developers do and things like that. So I'm going to get into it in a second. Go ahead back there.
My daughter upgraded, and she said she lost all the pictures.
No, she didn't. Not unless she did an erase and install. But let's talk about the Yosemite upgrade thing.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in Safari, my bank and my book and all that stuff is.
Yeah, I'll show you how to get that back. It's not deleted, so that's a good question, Charles, and I'll show you that. But that's not a Yosemite problem. Leslie?
I had no problems. I have a friend who took me email, and she said,
It's always the friend. You notice that? She can't. Leslie. So what was your real problem? No, go ahead.
no, she said that her mail.
Okay, there are some issues with mail, and I have a link to that. So if anybody's having that, send me an email. I'll send you a link. What the thing is Apple's trying to make it easier for you. There's a setting in mail. I'll go into that. Remind me after the break. I'll go into that, please, because that's important because other people may encounter it. And is she on Comcast, by the way?
I don't know if she is.
Okay, then no problem. So,
I upgraded last night to Yosemite, and I was in the process of writing an email, and I had photos attached to it, and all of a sudden the email disappeared. And when I went down to the dock and clicked on the email icon, it went open. So I had to shut down the computer, reboot, and everything came back.
yeah, so I don't know what happened there. Anomalies like that happen. Bits get scattered sometimes. But the best thing, and I get this call all the time, Ken, my email stopped working or whatever. Have you rebooted yet? No, and I always say, call me back if it doesn't work. And I sit by the phone waiting and waiting and waiting. It's amazing how it kind of self-heals, And it just gets everything lined back up pretty well. So that's always the first thing to try. And if it persists, then it's an issue. A lot of times with the app, we can do it like that. But that might have been just a little click. It could have been a keystroke. It could have been anything. But if it happens again, or if it can be replicated, then we worry about it. I'll go ahead.
In services, there is this pile of little programs that you can put to work. And my impression is that the pile changed as we transitioned from average to Yosemite. Is that true?
I don't know. Because I don't use services that much. The only thing I've ever used services for is to put something into iTunes. Like if I have a really long article, I tell it to save it in iTunes as a spoken track so I can have it read it to me on my iPhone. That's about the only services I've done. And that's a little deep, but if they have a specific issue, I'd be happy to research it. Shoot me an email. So I'm not sure. So, and it's still fairly new for me too. So, was that a Yosemite thing? A problem on Yosemite?
Well, not a problem is that I'm a little behind. I'm running 10.8, and somebody at Apple told me forget about 10.9. Just start.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. First of all, it's really hard to go get 10.9 because now that 10.10 Yosemite is out, it's really tricky to find it in the App Store. But I made sure the day that I knew Yosemite was coming out, I logged into the App Store and I made sure I downloaded the most recent fresh copy of 10.8 because I have to use that when I go troubleshoot for you guys and things like that. So it's a free update, and yeah, I would just go right to Yosemite. I mean, there's no intermediate step. Now, so what happens when you upgrade to Yosemite? First, I think those of you that know me, my philosophy is, unlike Pete, who says, oh, just go forward, forget everything in the past. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Now, handoffs and some of these other things I've talked about for the time being, do you know service if you're on iOS 6 or 7 on your iOS devices, right? Only on 8.1, and if your computer supports the handoffs, 2012 or newer, is there a compelling reason to do it? But here's my philosophy when I do something new. I did beta test it for a while, but I have actually taken my hard drive here around. I do not recommend partitioning, but what I did is I had enough room. I have Yosemite on a separate partition so that it's not affected my mission critical computer. I still have Mavericks on the other side, and I can boot into either. You can do it with an external drive if you want, but the whole idea is if you're going along, I have some specific apps, like I'm always worried if Reflector will work. Well, Reflector's done a good job of making sure it works in the new OSs as we go. But as we go way back to the old Quicken thing, when you upgraded from 10.6.8 to 10.7, it broke a lot of things. Well, there was ways to check that, but if you just went straight forward and didn't do it, all of a sudden things, it's the end of the month, you got to write checks, and Quicken doesn't work. So those things are very, very critical. If it's a mission critical computer, there's ways to back it up. But also, this is 10.10. It's not 10.10.01 or 10.10.1. It's 10.10. So it's your choice. Go carefully because things can break. But because they did a public beta of it, it is probably, and I have 23 different Mac sites that I get feeds from, and it has probably been the best upgrade with the least amount of problems that I've seen anywhere. And that's because they did this public beta. Now, the amazing thing is that they let a lot of people try it out. So things that break got reported back, and it works pretty well. So Apple wants to be super secret, but Tim Cook is saying, let's make sure we're more efficient for the user too, because nobody's going to replicate OS X. They have to worry about it more on the iPhone because Samsung wants to copy everything that they do, whose profits just dropped, 23% last quarter, I think. So anyway, I think that I always recommend waiting until the dot release comes out, because now it's out there. The adoption rate's been fantastic. But if you want to do the handoffs and stuff like that, that's a compelling reason to do it. But be careful if it's a mission critical computer. And if you work during the week, I wouldn't do it till Friday night, because then you got all weekend in case something goes wrong. But as you can see from here, from our little group here, nobody really had any issues with it, okay? So what you also want to do is make sure you have everything backed up on a time machine backup. Now, is there anyone here that doesn't currently have a backup? And this is MacNexus. It's a 12-step program for Apple users. So you can say, hi, my name's Bob. No, I haven't backed up. You haven't backed up? You've never lost data in your life, I'll bet. Anybody here ever lost data? And of those people that have lost data, who doesn't back up?
Time machine backed it up, right?
She doesn't have time machine. You should tell her. You have a Mac, right? It's really difficult. Go to Costco. Do you have a Costco card? Go to Costco. You have a laptop or an iMac? Okay. So at Costco, and Fry's has them when they're on sale, but Costco consistently has the lowest prices on these hard drives. You walk over, and by the way, you see the iPads there at Costco now. And if you want a cellular iPad or an iPhone, you go to the little cellular kiosk, okay? So they do have the cellular iPads and the iPhones at the cellular kiosk. But you go there, they have the little portable hard drives about the size of an iPhone. They have a 2 terabyte right now, Western Digital, for $109. The hardest part is going to be getting it out of the package. So, put on those mesh gloves, get the cutter, cut it out, and you take that hard drive. It doesn't have to say Mac at all. You can use any hard drive in the world. You plug it in here, and a little sign will come up and say, I see you've plugged in an external hard drive. Would you like to use Time Machine with that? Well, yeah, that's why I bought it. You say, okay. And it says, you know, I'm going to erase that brand new disk that has no data on it so it'll work with Time Machine. Is that okay? And you say yes, because it's just that disk. And now, every time, anytime it's plugged in, it will back up every hour. Now, those of you that are really concerned about photographs and everything else, I recommend a second Time Machine disk that you keep more than 10 blocks from your house. Because what if you're here at this class and a meteorite hits your house? Your backup hard drive's gone and your computer's gone. You go to the safe deposit box, you go to somebody else's house, you pick up your other one, you plug it into your brand new Mac, and as easy as it was to back up from the Time Machine, when you fire up that new Mac, it says, well, you've got a new Mac here. Do you want to restore from a Time Machine backup? Well, yeah. Click that button, wait a few hours till all the data transfers, and off you go. So please, 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 back up, back up, back up. But it's ultra important to back up when anytime it's a new OS. Now, incremental upgrades, 10.9.0 to 10.9.1, nah, that's not a big deal. But still back up all the time because your data is sacred. The computer may screw up, but at least your data is still on the Time Machine. Sorry, it took me a while to get to your question.
That's okay. Thanks to you, I backed up my MacBook. But I haven't my iMac yet. Use the same.
Great question. So on Time Machine, so first of all, anybody here use multiple users on their machine? Okay. Time Machine backs up all the users, no problem. From whatever user you're in, it backs up all the users on the machine. So that's great. But if I take that little Time Machine disk and I take it and plug it into another Mac, let's say you have a MacBook Pro and an iMac. It'll back it up also separately, and it differentiates between the two. So what happens when I want to get a new iMac and I want to migrate my data? Well, your old Mac you're going to retire. You could still use it for backups, but what happens is you plug that little Time Machine into the new iMac, and you say restore from a Time Machine backup, it says, do you want to restore from your iMac or from your MacBook Pro? And you click whichever one it is, and boom, all your passwords, all your mail settings, you may have to enter a couple passwords for Apple ID or things like that, but it will come back. But yes, you can use the same disk. Do not partition them.
Okay, but you're saying Time Machine.
Mm-hmm.
This is different. This is not when I got at Costco.
Okay. The misconception is time capsule versus Time Machine. Apple sells a thing called a time capsule, which is an airport router that has a hard drive stuck in it. That's time capsule. What's built into every OS since 10.5 is Time Machine. I'm sorry, 10.6. 10.5. Time Machine is a program that does backup. It's not called backup because you know how it works?
Oh, okay.
If you're out in the yard taking pictures of the roses, and you guys know me, you've heard this story. You go taking pictures of the rose and the neighbor's cat runs by. And you get a fleeting picture of the cat. It's kind of blurry and you put it into iPhoto. And 2 months later, you're going through your iPhoto library because you're saying, God, it's taking up too much room and all this. And you decide to delete the fuzzy cat poster. Because you don't like, or the fuzzy cat photo, and you don't like that cat anyway. Well, 3 months after that, your neighbor comes over and says, hey, I've lost my cat. Do you still have that photo? I need to make a lost cat poster. Well, if you really don't like the cat, you could say, oh, I don't know how to get it. I can't do it. Or you can reach back into Time Machine and recover that because it's Time Machine, not backup. And anything you've deleted previously, it'll come back into it and you can restore it. It's easier on a document and stuff, but this gives you a graphic representation of it. Okay? So that's what Time Machine does, and it works transparently behind the scenes. Question there, and then we'll come here.
I had a question, earlier one was, when I upgraded to Mavericks, a lot of my third-party
Blame the developers.
would not work.
Blame the developers.
So I had to get a new one. Going to Yosemite, will the same thing happen?
It shouldn't break things, but this is, if you have a mission-critical app, I have some people that have apps that are very, very critical to what they do. Wait, pioneers are the first ones with arrows in their backs, right? Don't be a pioneer. Wait till somebody else finds out if it works or doesn't work if it's a mission-critical app. If it's an app you can do without. Now, to think about this for a second is, many of us are buying our apps from the Mac App Store. Usually, if a developer makes the commitment to be in the Mac App Store, more than likely, they're going to be able to upgrade okay. But the underpinnings of Yosemite is not much different than Mavericks. I have not encountered anything that broke yet. Anecdotal evidence, I don't know. Question here, then we'll get you. Oh, it was here first, sorry.
I'm trying to do everything that you said about the backing up. Now, when does that hour start? Because should I always leave that plugged in?
So when does the hour start? First of all, if your computer, so the first backup takes a while because it backs up all your data. Every backup after that, it's only backing up anything new you've created. So it's really quick. And if you decide to shut the computer down, oh well, it'll start up when it goes again. It's set to back up every hour, an hour from the last backup. But if you're not creating any new data, or if your computer's asleep, there's no new data to back up, so therefore it won't back up anything. Or if it's backing up, your computer won't automatically go to sleep. So you're thinking through it too hard. How easy was it to set up? The hardest thing is getting it out of the box. Hey, just let it do its deal. That's the Apple way. They say let it just happen. And as long as it's plugged in, it will back up. You'll get a reminder. You might say you haven't backed up for 11 days.
That explains why I couldn't back it up myself. I kept trying to make it back up.
Well, what you do is you go up to the Time Machine logo, and I don't have it on here because this one side hasn't been done. But if you click on the Time Machine logo, there's a thing that says Backup Now.
Yeah.
So you can force the backup, and that's a really good thing. Let's say it's been 45 minutes since your last backup, and you've just done something. You've put 3 new chapters in your book of life, and you don't want to lose it. Well, you could save it, but that's old school. Or you go up to there and say Backup Now. If you're getting ready to go on a trip, force the backup, okay? And in the newer operating systems, we talked about 2 Time Machine backup drives. They peacefully coexist, and it says, when you plug the second one in, it says, do you want to make this your new Time Machine backup, or do you want to use both of them? And the cool thing is, if you use both of them and you keep one in a safe deposit box, and if you take 30 pictures of the roses in your backyard, don't rush out and get it out of your safe deposit box. But if you've just made a great, wonderful safari in Africa and you come back with 1,000 new photos, go get it, bring it in here, and what'll happen is it says, oh, well, this one hasn't been backed up for 30 days, so let's put in there everything you've created in the last 30 days, where the other one that's been the daily backup says, oh, yeah, I already got that info, I'll forget about it.
When I did do Time Machine, I got a whole bunch of pages. What does that mean?
No, you entered Time Machine. Don't ever enter Time Machine. Look, it's the call I get if you're missing something, Apple makes it too easy for you to try to recover it. There's a thing that says enter Time Machine. You don't want to enter Time Machine to try to recover your own data. When you get the Time Machine backup disk, I know it's a little stressful. It's something new. You can't hurt anything, but I don't mind that phone call. It's going to take us 3 minutes to get you started. Also, if you lose data, please call me. Let's do it the right way. A lot of times I can do it right on the phone with you or do a screen share. Because what will happen is if you say, oh, restore my iPhoto library back to what it was 2 weeks ago. Well, it's going to give you a shot. It's going to bring it back to what it was 2 weeks ago, not those last 300 pictures you just put in. So you have to be careful with that. They make it easy, but they don't put it on the dock anymore in Yosemite, thank goodness, because people used to click on that and you get into this list. And believe me, you can go in and just restore a single file or a single photo. So we had a question back here, and then we're coming to you.
I have my passport
Mm-hmm.
connected with the Time Machine,
Mm-hmm.
and my passport occupies one of the USB
Right.
slots. And I have need to pull it out and leave it off from time to time.
Okay.
That doesn't hurt the backupping process, except that it then
You get that big warning sign.
that it was disconnected does not come, and that's all it does.
Let's see if we can find that warning sign. I think it's always interesting. Mac, hard drive, warning. Oh, come on. There it is. So the new one is more subtle. The new one puts in a little notification that says you just unplugged your backup. But if you really read what this says, first of all, if you're on a Windows machine and you unplug it, it just goes bong. That's it. But this is saying, and you have to read the whole thing. The stop sign is where we see it and we go, oh my God, I've ruined it. I better call Ken. So it says, well, not exactly right. Oh, well, that's a little different one. Sorry, that's a repair one. But it usually says, if you were transferring data while you unplugged it, that data may not have got transferred. That makes all the sense in the world. So you can dismiss this when it happens. But if it's in the middle of a time machine backup, it could be untimely, but they've actually made it so it really doesn't make that big a difference. But if you're moving a bunch of files to it, it could cause some failure that way. So the best thing to do is when you have another drive in, oh, I tried to hit the OK and it's an image. That won't work too well. Sorry about that. If we go here, you'll notice now oh wow, they don't even show up in Yosemite. Come on. There's usually a little triangle with a line under it. If you go to Finder, just like if you put a camera card in or a thumb drive or an external drive, go into Finder and you look for the triangle with a line under it and you eject it. Because what's really cool about that is if it is transferring data, it won't let you eject it. If it lets you eject it, then it's okay to unplug it. But the other weird thing is if you eject it but don't unplug it and you come back, Time Machine doesn't think the disk is there. So you unplug it, plug it back in, it says, oh, your disk is back, all is good again. Okay, and I think, let's see here. Interesting. You can also drag it to the trash, but I never say that because that's so counterintuitive. I mean, we're dragging that disk to the trash. All right, so we had a question here.
I do notice one difference in using Yosemite. When I do a Google search, it's much slower. And I haven't altered anything else. It's kind of like you're trying to download Yosemite. You keep waiting for an answer.
So I haven't experienced that too much, but let me tell you what happens. How long ago did you install Yosemite?
Probably 4 days ago.
Okay. So for the first week, I said a week because he said 4 days. So realistically, what happens whenever you do a new install like that? It's indexing your drive for Spotlight. So that's going to take some clock cycles up because what it's doing when it does Spotlight indexing, it goes into every document you have, every PDF, and it starts searching all those words, so it basically makes a database of all your words. I don't know that that's your problem with Google, but I don't know if you know, but in Safari, who's worried about Google tracking them and what they search?
I saw the duck thing.
DuckDuckGo.
My next question.
Yeah, you can use DuckDuckGo now. What DuckDuckGo is a search that doesn't do tracking at all. You can tell Google to not track. I mean, the nice thing about Google is they will tell you how to opt out of this stuff. But DuckDuckGo is a very simple search engine, and it does no tracking. So I'll search for apple pie, and there it is. Now, see, they got a few ads at the top, like Google does, but DuckDuckGo, and you can make DuckDuckGo your default search engine while we're on this. Go to Preferences, and God, they changed where it is. I hate that. I think you can do the DuckDuckGo extension. There it is. Thank you. They've peeled it out from the preferences. So I can choose Yahoo, which I wouldn't. You get big ads, Yahoo search. Yahoo uses Bing. So if you want that, go to Bing. Bing's okay. By the way, Bing is what Siri uses when you search for something and tell Siri to search on the web. It's this battle between Apple and Google, and DuckDuckGo would be a great alternative, and the results seem pretty good. When I search, I use Google, because Google spends all their time trying to get pertinent results to what I want. They're personally asking me every time. They call me up and say, Ken, what do you want us to search for? DuckDuckGo seems to be pretty good. Bing results are kind of all over the map. Okay?
You didn't mention Chrome.
That's not a search engine. Chrome is Google's browser. Chrome is a good browser. It's my second browser to Safari, and it's okay to have multiple browsers. The new Safari is really, really, really good. If you use Chrome, don't keep it running. It uses a lot of system resources. Safari is very good about trying to keep everything low power for you, for those that are operating on batteries. There was you had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned apps all that, Joe. And first of all, whenever I download an app, I'll load it on the computer first, and then I'll on the phone.
And they're not the same app, by the way. They might have the same name, but...
I downloaded it from my phone on the computer first, so see the phone.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
But now I get a update from my app. I update it, but that app, indication that you have an app update will never go away unless another app comes up to update. In other words, if I got an update for Safeway, I just download it, I updated it, but it still indicates I have an update.
On your phone or on your computer?
On my phone. I can't get rid of it.
Have you restarted your phone?
Yes, the only way I can get rid of it is if I delete it off the phone and reinstall it.
That's what I was just going to say, yeah. I've had a couple of them be touchy for me, but you're having that consistently?
Yeah, it started, it's been a while now.
Wow. And I have like 900 apps on my phone, so that badge would always be there. Shoot me an email, and I'll see if I can find a link to that. But it may require resetting your phone or restoring your phone, which is a bit of a hassle. But the other thing is, now are you on an 8.1?
Yeah.
So 8.1 is not the 8.1.1 release, so there's a few bugs in it. So if it doesn't kill you that it's there, yeah, so wait to see when an update comes out to 8.1, see if it cures it, and if not, you can get free. You guys can go to the Apple Store anytime for free. Make an appointment. They'll spend 15 minutes with you. That would be my recommendation. Or do a Google search and see if anybody has it. Sometimes there's some outliers like that. Has anybody else encountered that? So it's some sort of a little anomaly. So, Alfreda?
Well, I was curious, if a person has only an iPad and maybe a phone, how do you do backup? Worry about that?
So if you don't have a Mac, and it's a great question, so what do I do for backup if I don't have a Mac? Because we're getting more and more of that. Like my mom, she only has an iPad. You use iCloud backup on your device. And iCloud will now sell you more space, but you can go in and manage that. I think my class after the first of the year, well, actually maybe my December class, I'm going to go into iCloud Drive more and more because it's becoming more prevalent. And iCloud Drive replaces the old iCloud, and there's some really neat things coming up with that. But it allows you to buy incremental amounts of space. And where I told you to take a hard drive and take it off-site for your secondary backup, it's the possibility that you could buy space on iCloud Drive and have it back up to there automatically. If you have a huge iPhoto library, I don't recommend it, but it's a good alternative that's off-site, and it'll do it automatically also. Cheryl?
So that's my question. Why would we need an external hard drive if we're going to be enrolling in that hard drive?
Well, only if you're going to have your Mac backup secondarily. I still recommend one Time Machine backup, but the amount of stuff on your hard disk is a lot of volume. That may cost you considerable per month. On Apple, on the iCloud Drive, it's like $99 a month for 20 gigabytes, and then it goes up from there. $9.99? 99 cents. Did I say $9.99? You can pay me the $9.99 and I'll buy. And you can use your iTunes gift cards, and if you buy them first of all, those that went to the meeting got a $10 one, but otherwise, if you get the iTunes gift cards when they're 20% off, that you can apply towards your iCloud Drive account too.
So for $12 a year.
That's only 20 gigabytes of data though.
But then you could go up if you need.
Yes, you can. I'm saying I'm not endorsing it as an alternative yet, and if you have a large iPhoto library, it's probably too big to do that, but we're looking into it. The maximum is 1 terabyte. So, we'll see. Yes?
I lost my photos on my hard drive. And
in the Yosemite upgrade?
Huh?
Not in the Yosemite upgrade.
No, the hard drive.
Oh, got it, okay.
But I was attempting to restore the photos from backup. Of course, I have
just the photos, or were you trying to bring everything in?
Well, just about.
Oh no, you just bring everything in. If you lost your hard drive, just bring everything in.
No, not the hard drive. The hard drive on my head photos on.
Oh, it's an external drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wanted to see if I could back them up to iCloud Drive. But it doesn't seem to want to ask me that question.
Well,
Right
what's
way to do it.
do you have Yosemite?
Yes.
So, and I'm not fully sussed out with iCloud Drive, but it's going to operate just like Dropbox, where you can put files to it.
Yeah, I know. Except that when
Can we wait till we do an iCloud Drive class, because this is kind of, or I'll talk to you separately on that. And Pete might be a better answer, because I am not using iCloud Drive yet, because I still have. If you're on Mavericks, you don't want to use iCloud Drive because it doesn't work. So that's another thing. You get the option when you go to iOS 8.1 and when you go to Yosemite to use iCloud Drive.
He just never gave me that as an alternative for backup. That's all.
No, it doesn't. You have to do that. That's not baked in yet.
Yeah.
So, but if you have any machine that's not on iOS 8.1 or not on Yosemite, don't choose iCloud Drive currently as an option. Stay with regular iCloud, because it'll make it so the other, like my Mavericks, I can't see into my iCloud if I choose iCloud Drive. This is a little confusing. We'll try to suss all that out later. I don't want to get too deep into it. Just say no when you get that chance. How's that? Go ahead. Oh, just wiping your face. John?
This is really weird. I've got Yosemite on 2 computers, an iMac and a laptop. No problem at all. I've been working with it for a week. Can't see any difference at all. The only problem is that about every 5 minutes or so, and it's not the same time, a voice will come on, a female voice with a 1-syllable word. I can't make out what it is. But it's just like oh,
John Fraser.
or something.
John Fraser. This is your wife.
I think they're calling me from up above or something.
Yeah, anyone else hear voices in their head? And it's a challenge because of the hearing. Is it only on one of them?
Yes, it's not on the laptop. It does on the iMac. Really, I can't make out what
It's
saying.
some sort of announcement or something, so we'd have to go in and see if there's. Do me a favor. See if it only happens when you're in certain applications.
Okay.
And then write it down. But boost the volume. I mean, yeah, that's.
It's only 1 syllable. I can't say it.
I know. And there's no little notification?
Yeah, pardon?
There's no little notification pops up?
No, nothing else.
This will be a good one. Yeah, well. All right. Yeah, right. It was some screensaver. It could be something running in the background too. We would look in your login items and see if there's some sort of reminder there. All right, go ahead.
I just had a question about upgrading to Yosemite. I don't have Maverick. I'm a previous system before that.
You're on 8.5.
Yeah.
So it should work if it's on the list.
Do I have to move the Maverick first and move up?
No, so the upgrade, okay. What are we going to do first before we upgrade? And make sure any of our mission critical apps work in it. I'm going to go to a website that, let's see if they're doing it. Because the big deal was when we went from Snow Leopard to Lion. Remember, a lot of things broke from 10.6 to 10 because it got rid of all the old AppleWorks stopped working and stuff, all the old PowerPC apps. His wife has a great app that she loves that would have broken if we upgraded her. So roaringapps.com, because of roaring, remember it was Lion and Mountain Lion. So let's just take in here, let's say Quicken. I don't want to pick on Quicken, but I'm just saying. I think. Oh, it works with the upgrade. But what I want to show here. So see what happens. This is a great website. So remember, we were working with cats and lions back then. So they developed this website called Roaring Apps. Okay, roaringapps.com. And what they do is people test it. So far, nobody's taken and wow, getting a new battery. Yeah, it's pretty effective. Up there, but what it does is this particular app shows that it's checked and does okay in these different ones, but it's not been tested in Yosemite yet. So give me a popular app that somebody's worried about. We're going to do this one time. Microsoft Office works fine, as long as it's 28 or 2011, but let's do that. Office 2008. 2004 I know doesn't work. Works fine. Okay? Well, wait, that's a manner of speaking. Microsoft Office never works fine. Okay? It happens to work as well as it ever did in Yosemite. Okay?
Put in 4 just so we can see something different.
What?
Put in,
I know it won't work. Well, the other one, okay, so I got it.
I can tell you that Mac 2007 does not work in Yosemite.
There, Mac,
Quicken 2007 for Mac does not work.
did it work in Mavericks for you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Quicken has come out with a new version of Quicken finally. So that's good news, and it would help if you get a chance, report that to Roaring Apps because people want to know. And that's surprising. But maybe because Quicken came out with this little kludgy fix, I don't know if they'll come out with that kludgy fix again since they have the new version.
According to USAA, Quicken will not support Mac 2007.
The best way to find information like that too, also for any app you guys are using, go to, there's usually message boards for those apps. And now it's just kind of like MacNexus. You're amongst your own separate users and stuff, so go in there and they're going to get some feedback. And again, pioneers are the first one with arrows in their back. So if it's mission critical, walk carefully and carry a big stick.
that's wrong because 2004 worked in Lion and Mountain Lion, but not when I moved to Mavericks.
Yeah, which is funny because that is wrong. But it did work. It worked in 10.6 up to 10.6.8. So anyway. Oh, and look at this. It even shows you in, this is cool. For my quick light that's dying. Handoffs, iCloud Drive, notification centers, whether they work with that stuff or not. So that's kind of cool. I like that. I'll probably use this more and more now to see if it supports handoffs or iCloud Drive and things. I know 2004 doesn't, but if we go to a particular app that would, there's the whether it does it. So that's cool. And the other thing is in Mavericks, this app nap was something that lets it go to sleep behind the scenes. So that's new that they've put that there. So roaringapps.com.
A great connection between the Photoshop and the Adobe series, the older ones like 4.6, which I have, took a lot of classes on it, and now they're all unlicensed. And I can't open them up.
That's because you did a migration, I think. And you know what? Adobe's not anybody's friend. Adobe is not your friend. Do whatever you can to rid yourself of Adobe in your life. I'm serious. If you need to use Photoshop or Lightroom, if you have to, now they do it where you rent the software, but it's not a bad deal with the Creative Cloud. It's $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom, and that includes iCloud storage. This, I think, I hate renting software, but I really think, look at how quick their page loads. They really like you. So $9.99 a month, annual prepaid $119. So, which is not a huge savings. But it's a good way to get into, and you get Photoshop and Lightroom. So this is a good photographer's one. But you know what? Apple's coming out with a new Photos app that works currently on 8.1, and it will work on Yosemite after the first of the year. And guess how much it's going to cost?
Zero.
Big fat zero. But in this case, it's not. You get more than what you pay for it. But it'll allow you, and this is, I'm going to tease you with this, because this is one of this cool thing about the handoffs and everything else. So I've always told people it's really hard to have two Macs because you never know what files are on what. But until we have, forget the iPad and the iPhone for a second. If you have an iMac at home and you're into photos and you go on a trip, you take your laptop with you. And you upload your photos and you want to work on them, you do some corrections, you label them, you put smiley faces on them and do different things. And when you get back home, those don't transfer over to your Mac, your home Mac, because basically just the raw photos can come over. Apple's Photos app that will replace iPhoto, yes, iPhoto and Aperture will still work, but they're not what's going forward. It won't break it and there'll be a way to migrate. But the Photos app will be available after the first of the year. And the coolest part about it is, if I'm traveling with either my iPad or my laptop and I upload my photos to it, and I work on them on my iPad, because like there's certain things you can do on the Photos app in the iPad. If I want to make the sky darker, I can just rub my finger across the sky. That's a lot easier than using a mouse. On my Mac, what'll happen is that goes to my photo library in the cloud, and then that photo library comes back down to all my devices. Think about it exactly how your contacts works. If I change a contact on my iPhone, it goes up to the cloud as the intermediary and then trickles down to all my devices with that new contact, that change. iPhoto will work the same way, but depending on the size of your iPhoto library will depend on how much iCloud drive space you need to have. But to me, this is great because the rumors are that we're going to have a 12.5-inch iPad sometime in the first quarter of next year, we think. So when I travel, I don't have to take my big, heavy MacBook Air, right? I can take my iPad 2, iPad Pro, they're thinking about calling it. I get my photos uploaded to here. I work on them all I want. I make albums. I do whatever I want. Then when I'm on Wi-Fi, it syncs with my iPhoto or my Photo Cloud library. And then when I get home, it's sitting there on my Mac with all those things, and I can modify it back here. That's the holy grail. Adobe Lightroom currently does that. They've made a very good iPad app, and they've made it here. But I tell people not to jump into Lightroom yet unless you're already using it, because iPhoto will still work like it always has. But it does this collaboration, and to me, that's going to be fantastic. Keith.
Unless I'm mistaken, you can't download raw photo files to an iPad. You can only download JPEG files.
I don't know that to be a fact for the new one.
The new what?
For the new photos.
Okay.
Not sure. They haven't been... Indications are that it will. But raw, for those of you who shoot RAW, you know it's about 3 times the file size of a regular photo. So, question?
Yeah, are you saying that you still do your editing in iPhoto, not photo?
Once Photos comes out, you'll do your editing in Photos. Your iPhoto, you'll cease using iPhoto. It'll still be there. But your iPhoto library will migrate over to Photos, because Photos, and believe it or not, the indications are that it'll even be in Safari or in a browser. You could be stuck on a desert island that only has a Windows PC, and if it has a modern browser, you might be able to go into your iCloud photo library and manipulate and do your photos online directly in your iCloud drive from a modern browser on a PC. Very similar to how Pages works now. Is our break supposed to be at 10:20? Is it usually? Or am I a little late? Okay, I got a couple minutes. There was a question here.
I had just a quick question. Warning what came up on my computer and said I didn't have the current Adobe Flash, the newer one was required. So I went to the Adobe.
That's when you upgrade. Did you update to Yosemite? Yeah, because it's a new Safari browser. So, want me to?
I went to the Adobe page. It's just very confusing to me. They have so many things.
They love you.
Yeah. So I didn't want to download what I didn't need. So I'm just asking, what should I need?
Okay. Great question. It'll be a good question to answer before we take a break because it doesn't take long. Don't use Adobe Reader. Pete always rails on Adobe. Everybody thinks you shouldn't use Adobe Flash. Well, unfortunately, for the time being, Adobe Flash is necessary for many websites. If you don't want to download it, download Google Chrome, and then in Google Chrome it has Flash built in, and you can watch it in Google Chrome. If you don't want to screw up Safari. But really, Safari handles Flash quite well now, and it has a Flash suppressor, so to speak, that only activates when it wants. Smart web designers are not using Flash. If you go to the Yahoo homepage, all these ads on the side are Flash. It slows your computer down dramatically because it's got such terrible overhead. So smart web designers, and you can't see it, your mobile devices don't see Flash. So if it's a smart ad maker, they're going to start making them not in Flash in what's called HTML5, which works wonderfully, okay? But for the time being, you still need Flash. So here's your best way to get Flash is you go up to your search, and I type in get Adobe space Adobe Flash. And I purposely, last night, didn't install this for this reason. So you click on Install Adobe Flash. And then you'll come up with this, and it's nice that the little button disappeared here. It may be coming back. Oh, there it is. Install now. Because you upgraded to Yosemite, it gave you a new Safari browser. You probably had Flash in your old browser, but it's a new browser. What it does is it enhances your browser experience, lets you see videos. So you can see up in the corner here, it's downloading, right? Now, there it is. So I'm going to double click on this. And you'd think Adobe would leave you more breadcrumbs than then install Adobe Flash Player. Well, what do I do? I mean, come on, tell me. They could have said, double click on this folder to install Adobe Flash Player. For God's sakes. So, double click, and then you get this warning. Now, this is supported by Apple, so this is okay. What this little warning is, it's called Gatekeeper. It's been out since 10.8, I believe. And Gatekeeper is Apple's way of future-proofing any possible intrusions into your computer. So what this says is it okay to install Adobe Flash Player? And the fact that it will let me open it means it's been approved by Apple. You may occasionally get one that's not approved by Apple, and you have to go into your security settings and say allow from anywhere. You're kind of out in the wild then, but if it's a known developer, you do that. But in this case, I would say, yes, open. Because it's still going to ask for my administrator password. And now it's going to install. Now what happens is, once it installs, it's creating a helper for Safari, so it's going to say, hey, look, I can't do it while Safari's running. So you just quit Safari. But to this point, I mean, Adobe really, in our website, they kind of told you how to do it, but you're already past that by now. So there's, see, Safari. Oh, okay. So I go here, and I quit Safari. And now I say retry. And then so while it's doing that, go ahead.
Well, actually, that is some work from my wife from the state.
You're talking about Adobe Reader, right?
Well, I could use preview, so I had to download.
Because the state likes you too, kind of like Adobe, yeah. You occasionally will have to use that, but God, it then becomes, you make it so it's not your default PDF reader if it gives you that option. Yeah, well, just Google it and it'll take you back out. But preview, and you're sure it didn't work in preview?
Right, I did 4 times.
Yeah. So here's this Lightroom page, by the way, and this is a great rendering. But this just shows you, so good, thank you, and enjoy Adobe Flash Reader. So let's go to yahoo.com, because I know that there's some Flash going on there. Oh, you know what? So let's see if I hover over. I'm looking for some Flash videos. Yeah, so basically, most of these are HTML5 now. But it would say, do you want to activate Flash in Safari to watch this video? And that's fine because it just does it for that video. It used to be that it would just keep your Safari running, your fans would heat up, it'd use all your memory and everything else. So Safari does a really good job now of kind of managing Flash. But if you go to sites that are a lot of Flash and stuff, go ahead and use Google Chrome. Now, the thing is what they have to be careful is Flash can have some vulnerabilities. You want to make sure you're downloading the right Flash. It's unlikely it can do anything to your Mac. In fact, it's not likely it can do anything to your Mac. But in the future, they may be able to develop something. That's why Apple has that little thing. So far, you can't get anything from a Mac. So that's Flash. And in a Flash, you guys can go ahead and take a break. Let's try to be back in about 10 minutes, and I'm going to try to beat you guys all to the rest. I'll be back to answer questions.
Do you know what the password was in here for the Wi-Fi?
I don't remember.
But I'm just saying, yeah.
This is Ed. I'm first in line for questions when he comes back from his bathroom break.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it was on my phone, but I just got it.
It's also a problem that he does things so have you downloaded
I'm looking for Korean veterans. Are you
Looking for
Korean?
what?
Korean veteran. Were you in Korea?
No,
No, you missed it?
I guess so.
Okay.
Never been to Korea.
I'm doing a DVD of my days in Korea, 1950, and it covers 180 pictures plus narration.
All right, one there.
Standing right out there.
Pardon?
Still standing right out there.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, we should see that.
I could tell him he had a really long bathroom break.
Yeah.
That was a really long bathroom break.
Well, they got me in
They
the
really
aisles.
go
All right,
way back.
Keith, you're
I want to talk
now
about
serving number 3.
I want to talk about photography because you do photos. I'm going on an African safari next year.
Congratulations.
We'll be taking a lot of pictures. I can't use my iPad to download pictures on because it only does JPEG. At least my experience is. I can't use a laptop.
When are you
because,
going?
August next year, July or August next
We'll
year.
know more by then.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway,
But my recommendation when you're traveling is keep your cards. Have enough cards, you don't have to clear your cards.
well, okay. That was my question.
And keep them in a separate spot. And more than like, you have your MacBook Air.
Yeah.
So
But I can't download that many on there because it's not a memory.
No,
yet.
but what my recommendation is, get a little portable hard drive, have it back up all the things that are on your cards, and keep it a separate spot from your cards.
Okay.
Because then you've got dual.
Have you heard of something like that? It's essentially a backup drive
Yes.
that takes SD cards and is battery powered. So it doesn't require a separate plug-in.
Because I know a friend that does, they have a similar thing for videos. Well, that's not bad. How much space does it? 500 gigs? That's huge.
Yeah. And it's battery powered, so it doesn't need a plug.
And you know, if it's B&H, just look at what the reviews are.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So are you not planning on taking the MacBook Air?
I don't know what I'm going to take.
If you take the MacBook Air, the little hard drive would work fine.
Yeah.
But if you do, because the other thing is the new photos in the cloud won't help you very much anyway, because you may not have
Internet access.
Exactly.
I know. I understand
And you know,
that.
you got a lot of photos. So I always recommend having fresh cards. Fill your card up, set that card aside.
But if
keep
that
going.
card goes bad, you
But
don't
that's
have
why
it
no.
backed
But
up.
that's what I'm saying is have some sort of backup with you that you back up every night.
Okay.
Because
That's
then
what
you
I was
have at
thinking
least
about this.
2.
Yeah.
But when you fly back, make
Put 'em
sure
in
they're
separate places.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because you never know.
I know.
And I mean, a third would be best, but
Okay.
two's good.
Okay.
She
Thank
was
you.
next here. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You were number 3. What happened to number 2?
I'm also
Did she?
number 2.
Oh, okay. Roger's number 2. You're number 3.
Yeah, yeah. Would you tell me if I have room on here for
Yes.
8?
Oh wait, no. Unless you do it via the computer.
Okay, how do I do that?
You plug it into iTunes, and first you back it up in iTunes, so you want to make sure everything's backed up, and tell it to transfer purchases. That way it throws all your apps here onto
So
iTunes just in case. That'll be in that screen. We'll do a screen share as easiest, but what happens is because this has to download the app and has to have room to expand because if something goes wrong, it doesn't want to obviate your old one. So what happens by doing it in the computer, it downloads what it needs and then just replaces it.
Okay, I was wondering because I do have quite a few photos on here.
Well, you use it for 6 gigs also.
Yeah.
I can't decide what I want to do.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, no, but you could always use that
Initially,
on.
and by initially, I mean I've had it 3 days. Initially, it's kind of awkward to grab hold of, and you gotta be sure where you're putting it. I wear jackets with big pockets and that type of thing.
That's great.
And
So
Okay,
I
I'm
can
back
do,
to this side, then I'll come to your
Yeah,
side.
I can do this before I download Yosemite, which I'm
And,
going to wait until.
Yeah, there's no.
I
You
spent
can do
2
it with
days
it, but I do it
at
because
Apple.
the
I bought
interface
it.
we know already. Just do it on the
took
And
everything
then we
off
wanna
of
make
it,
sure
then
it
I
has
spent
chance
a
to
day
work
and a
on machine
half
back
just
and forth.
having iCloud to load everything back on.
You were
I-
6 plus. Size matters.
What I was going to ask you was, you'll have all this in the computer by Monday.
Oh god, and I didn't stop the recording.
Yeah. You'll have it in there by Monday or
Uh-oh.
Tuesday.
Uh-oh.
What?
Was it recording?
Don't tell me you didn't record it.
I was recording it,
Oh.
but it failed. Yeah, oh no. Let me look. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I said you'll have it in there by Monday.
I'll have it there by Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, that's good.
I don't. Yeah, it depends on a lot of because it's big files to upload. It depends on when I can be. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I might do it late tonight, but I'll probably do it tomorrow.
Okay, just as
So,
long as I
let me
get
just-
it, because I spent the last 3 days with this, and this is fun.
It's
and
great.
As soon as I
Now, are you
downloaded-
using Zoom mode? You're not using Zoom mode?
No.
So, let me just look here. I got to do something. Computer. Let's see if I can find this darn file. Yosemite users can. Okay. Well, we may not have gotten that recorded, so I'll try. If not, you can answer specific questions.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Hi.
I just want to tell you a story. I came home from a vacation after when the weekend after the MacNexus meeting, and Quicken doesn't work for me anymore. So anyway,
When you went to Yosemite.
no, I had not. I don't even think I'd done it then. But anyway, using the $10 gift card that I got at the meeting, and you just sort of gently tossed out the words iBank at the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And so I decided, screw Quicken. But it took me 9 freaking hours to get iBank set up. But I was so mad.
That's what the problem is. But now that you've done it,
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So frustrated that day. I stopped to eat.
You mean you weren't glued to the screen the whole way?
But it was.
But it did bring in your old data. It was getting it in correctly was the.
My big problem
in your
was
chart of
connecting
accounts.
up with USAA.
Oh yeah. Because they've made that, they've enhanced the security on those things.
Well,
and thank you for your service. I love USAA.
No, it's
through the family.
ex-husband that
Yeah.
did that.
Hey, thanks for his service.
USAA logs on differently than Schools Credit Union or what's the
It doesn't matter.
American
Golden One.
Express,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you call USAA and they only will provide support for Quicken. I'm so mad at them. I sent them an email. I also finally sent.
Well, how that works, just so you know, Quicken's here. Your bank is your computer and Quicken is here. Your bank's here, and there's an intermediary, and it's a trusted intermediary. And iBank and all those can use that, but they're only used to Quicken. Like Mint, which is by Intuit, uses that same trusted intermediary. If you like to see your accounts and everything else, and you can't do any transactions in Mint, but Mint is the bomb. Mint is great. So I have Mint on here.
Yeah, but you can just see what your balances are.
Right, and you see your transactions.
Yeah, but
and you can categorize
iBank,
them.
I can.
Right.
I can put
But I mean,
a transaction in here, and
right.
it shows up. That's just like it used to be on my own Palm Pilot, and I love that. So I'm happy with that.
Who was next? Charles, go ahead.
Ken, on Keynote next week. I've never used Keynote.
Okay.
Does Pete start at the beginning, or?
Oh yeah, because it's a brand new Keynote.
Okay.
Now, previous to that, it would have been done, but it's a brand new Keynote, so it will. Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's always hands-on, so
yeah, I know.
Make sure you have it loaded before you come. And it's at La Placita, not too far from your house.
I know.
Yeah.
Yosemite automatically puts it in, doesn't it?
Right. So that's why I just wanted to make
I've got
sure you have
Yosemite
it.
on my back
Then you're
pocket.
fine. Then you're fine.
Second one.
Okay.
Have you seen the new Canon IS-60?
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I haven't.
I was just wondering.
Oh, the SX60. Yeah, I just got it.
Did you?
Yes. I got it because I have the iPhone app where I can zoom in and out, but it won't let me do any of the other settings. I just got it last week, so I haven't experimented with it much yet.
By next week,
I'll have it with me probably.
Yeah.
Or
I looked at it at Best Buy.
Yeah,
$549,
and
yeah, I've got a 40.
So I had the 50.
I know you did. You've raved about it.
The 50 was great because it does RAW. This one is not much more than 50. Yeah, I get a little more zoom. There's no big difference. It's about $200 more than the 50 because it's not discounted yet. But because my Canon 70D uses the app here, I like that. But I've got to find out, I want the app to be able to set my aperture and everything else. But it does that on my Canon 70D, but it doesn't do it on this. But it will let me zoom. I was out trying to do some wildlife photography, but I'm not convinced yet.
Okay,
so
I
got to work some more on it, and it's me not knowing it well enough yet. But yeah, no, there are some features too. I like if you're in a mode, if you're in aperture priority, now there's a wheel like there is on the other Canons, so I can go right into it. Still no touch screen on the screen, but it feels more solid. How are you?
As you know, I have 3 users on my computer. They're all me. Mm-hmm. Is there any way to
merge them?
Is that easy, or do I need to talk with you and have you do it on?
I can walk you through the process, but what it is the merging is you just want the data merged.
Yeah.
The documents and the photos.
Yeah.
Now, are some of those photos going to be duplicates?
Yeah.
Since some of those photos may be duplicates, let's wait and see what happens with photos, because iPhoto does not have the ability to differentiate duplicates very easily, and it'd be afraid we might open this big can of worms where I'm not sure if the new photos will handle duplicates. If the new photos doesn't handle duplicates, then what we'll do is we've got a way to do it. There's some other things we can do.
Okay, it's driving me nuts because I just realized the other day the one I'm using, I didn't know who I was, damn it. And,
Sybil, huh?
Yeah, and the one that I'm using, it doesn't do what iPhoto what I expected it to do, And
that's
so I was
probably
thinking,
a new version of iPhoto.
So I was
But that's
thinking,
across all users.
I was thinking that I've got a book for iPhoto 11. So I know I went up to iPhoto 11.
Well,
I thought, gee, maybe it's past that. But you know what? I checked to see what version of iPhoto
Oh,
I'm
God, you
using.
opened an old one.
It's 9.6.
Because it was on the dock, because it was still there.
9.6.
Ah.
And so that's
what
why I'm
happens is
sort of anxious to...
the apps work for all users.
Yeah.
But what happened is that's probably what was on the dock for that old user.
Yeah.
Usually when it upgrades, it gets rid of the old one. But yeah, that's what...
And so I...
Actually, some people like that one better.
So that's why I decided that I've got to get rid of those 3 users and make it one. Don't you think I just wait till after the first?
Because if it handles duplicates, it's going to help us. If not, we can figure another routine because duplicate photos is down.
Yeah, most of them would be duplicate.
Okay, is this quick? Because I've got to get...
Okay, so
If I'm getting a FaceTime call on my phone, I can answer it with this.
If it rings here, you can, but you have to make sure that they're on the same account. So let's check. Well, if you get a let me FaceTime call. Let me FaceTime call you. Let's do it after. Let's do it afterwards.
Yeah, and if it's on.
As long as they're set up to the same FaceTime account passwords. All right. Somebody had a question over here? They said no? Okay, so we're starting to... Go ahead, Charles. Well, okay. Macworld.com as a magazine is no longer. Does anyone here have a current subscription to the print version of it? All right. You'll be able to go get it from Macworld's app or Zinio for your Mac. You download it. Your subscription will turn over to digital. Take one of your subscriptions. You can go through it. So they're becoming an online-only presence, but you can. The nice thing is you can go get your back issues and its actual pictures of the magazine. But going forward, they're going to produce the magazine that way. And I don't know if it's going to stay as a subscription or what, but it's unfortunate. And of course, then it also means I don't get to take my annual trek down to Macworld in San Francisco when we do, Pete and I and a bunch of people, we get in cars and we just tech out down there. And I mean, all I can remember is in 2007 when the iPhone was introduced and we're in the car and we have these little Sony Ericsson phones and it's like we're trying to read the blogs on these phones that didn't get the internet. When you think back how bad phones were before the iPhone, and we're looking at this and it says, oh, they're introducing a new iPod. Oh, they're introducing a new internet communicator. Oh, they're introducing a new phone, the iPhone. Oh, it's all three, and we're getting it in these little bits and feeds before they did these live keynotes and stuff, and it was great. And we weren't at the keynote. We never went into those, but I'll miss the Macworld, iWorld, what it became. Apple pulled out a long time ago. That was kind of the nail in the coffin, but realistically, Apple pulled out of it for quite a few reasons. It's hard for the secrecy. It's also in January when it used to be, the employees were having to work over the holidays, and it really was just not a great thing. And plus, then Apple had to have a year, okay, we have to have something new by this year because otherwise Apple didn't introduce anything new. They're beleaguered. They're terrible. They're going to go out of business, And realistically, with the stores and with the web interface and stuff now, I mean, all that's changed, and you really get to see what Apple products are out there. So, yeah, it's a sad passing. The good news is MacNexus is still here, and we're 30 years old, and I think we're as strong as ever, and encourage other people to come join. I mean, I think it's probably the best $40 a family could ever spend, really, with what you get. And we financially, for now, can keep it that way. Our budget actually, we're nonprofit. We're supposed to lose a little money. We're not supposed to gain money, but we budget out to lose a couple grand, and we gain a couple $100 every year. So we're staying pretty stable at around $50-something thousand in the bank, which actually dates back to when MacNexus was an internet service provider. So our current membership fees keep us in balance. We lose maybe a total of 2 members a month just because of aging and stuff. We lose 6 or 8, but then we gain 4 new, or we gain 6 new, things like that. But our budget stays pretty consistent, and we're able to pretty much maintain. And when we have those big raffles like that, we say, okay, let's put some big raffle prizes in there because we have to spend some of this money. We are as a nonprofit, and we make enough back in the raffle ticket sales and get it. But we gained back not the full amount of what we did this time, but that's why we like the big raffles. And we do as many of those as we can because it's a member benefit. But
let's do monthly big raffle.
I would encourage you to tender that suggestion to us because I push for it. I think, and I kind of like the new way Zule is doing it, where you target your tickets to what you want, because how often have you gotten, I've got an iPhone 5S and I got an iPhone 4 case, and while she does a good job to have variety on that, I think it's really more critical. This way you can put your raffle tickets in the one you want. Now, unlike the crab feeds where I go to, where they have a little paper bag that you drop the tickets into, and you look how many tickets are in there, or you grab the tickets out of that one and put it in that one and then put your ticket in there. No, anyway, I think it's a good way to do it, and it'll continue. So, and I was the lucky winner. I mean, I think I won a little USB hub like 3 years ago, and I bought $60 worth of tickets, and I won an iPad in there, and Zule will give you the receipt for it. So I took it to Apple because it was a regular iPad. It wasn't an iPad Air 2, and I'm either going to get the iPad Air 2 or I'm going to get the new one that comes out after the first of the year. So I got an Apple gift card for it, and amazingly, the price for the Apple gift card was $349. Does anybody know what $349 gets you after the first of the year? The Apple Watch. So I have to get these things for you guys so I can teach you what to do, and so I'll be happy about that. So I thought that was just that was appropriate. That was perfect. All right, I asked someone to ask me the question after the break about something that was back there, and please help me. Leslie.
It was
the mail.
the mail.
M-A-I-L. So there's a little thing in Apple Mail in preferences.
Did you answer any questions about MALE?
What would you like to know?
Explain them.
Easier than I can explain FEMALE. Let me find this one little spot. All right, so this is one there's a couple, and I'll provide a link when you send that to me. There have been, mail has changed a little bit, and when mail changes, sometimes it messes up non-traditional mail services. So there may be a couple things broken. But what's unique is I had this one client come on, and she didn't take my warning. She didn't ask me. She's a real estate agent. She's a close friend. And, oh, I'm upgrading to Yosemite. Ken, my mail, I can't get my mail. She's a real estate agent. It's kind of important. And luckily she has an iPad and an iPhone. But anyway, I couldn't figure out why we kept changing us. Oh, and at the same time, she was changing her GoDaddy forwarding email account and all this other stuff. There was too much going on at one time that it was felt like I was doing this. And so it turns out that it kept resetting it. I'd set the darn preferences to be the right way, and then we'd restart it and it'd come back. And I actually got accusatory. I go, because she has a tendency to tinker. I go, okay, now tell me the truth. Did you go in and change that again after we had it fixed this morning? No, I didn't, really. And I go, are you sure? She said, yeah. So then I had to dig into it a little bit. And what happens is, because she had this GoDaddy account that needs certain settings, you guys all know when you add a new mail account, it automatically tries to find the settings for you. But what's unique, if we go into Mail, M-A-I-L, Preferences, and you go into Accounts, over here on the right, there's a new thing that says Automatically Detect and Maintain Account Settings. So what this means is, if it's wrong, it's going to do it wrong again. So if you have an issue with it, you may disable that. That is brand new in Yosemite, and it could, for hers, it was creating issues because her .com was using her Gmail account, but it kept trying to use the GoDaddy settings for that .com. So what we had to do is we had to go in and disable this in there, and now it works fine. So that was that could be, Leslie, that could be your friend's setting. Also find out now, is anyone here have Comcast as their email? And did your email stop working on October 22nd? Yeah, Mary, this is the perfect example. So Comcast is not your friend. AT&T, Yahoo, SBC, Global.net is your worst enemy. You know what? Get rid of using your internet service provider as your email. Because what if MacNexus decided to become an internet service provider? Don't worry, we won't. I don't get enough calls as it is. But let's say we found somebody that came along and offered you 3 times the speed for 1/3 of the price. And you have to leave Comcast or AT&T or SureWest. Well, you've got your email with them you've had for a long time. You're not a free agent. You can't negotiate a better deal with somebody else because you're using the email that your service provider gives you for free, because that's kind of how it always used to work. But believe me, they're not in the email business. Apple gives you free mail, and Gmail gives you free mail. Believe it or not, AOL gives you free mail, and theirs is a pretty decent email service also. So you become a free agent. Rid yourself of that, because we were on with Comcast for pretty much an hour yesterday. And what had happened is she changed the name on her account. And a year and a half ago, should have just been no account number, and she's just changing the account over. And sometimes they went through and they said, oh, well, we changed our servers and they found this old account that still had an email attached to it. She shouldn't have been getting email on that account for the last year and a half, but all of a sudden it ceased. And it was really, really hard to go find that. But it was actually, they had an old account number and it didn't get migrated over. And unfortunately, every email that someone sent to her since October 22nd is bounced back to those people. It doesn't exist. It could have been that she'd won $2 million from Nigeria, and she missed it. What an opportunity gone awry. So start using Gmail or one of those, and then what you can do is, so for instance, SureWest only gives you 500 megabytes of email space, that little bit like this. You can have it forwarded to your Gmail account, and you could still use your existing email address, but we circumvent them. But what you want to start doing is sending out your mail from your new independent email account, because then people will get used to it. I harp on this enough. AT&T SBC Global is the worst. You're always getting those server errors. They're saying, give me your password, give me this. Your password's not wrong. They're just not connected. So get rid of that email provider, and get rid of it before you have to. As we're getting older, let's say we decide to move to a retirement community, and that retirement community doesn't have SureWest or doesn't have AT&T. So instead of letting everybody know in 30 days that you got to change email providers, go over time to one of these independents. Okay? And go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to say, my friend here had a
Oh, it's not yet. It's
situation
fine.
where
Thank you.
you should make sure your password or your email that's associated with the iCloud you change over before you drop the.
Well, so that was kind of a challenge too, because we thought we were going to have to recover her Gmail address. Oh, we thought we were going to. So the problem is it was acting like her password didn't work for Comcast, when what it was, the account was actually shut down. But what does she use for her Apple ID? Her Comcast.net email address is the Apple ID. And that's fine, but what you have to remember is, don't think of that as an email address. Think of that as a username for an Apple ID. Now, let's say she left Comcast, she could still use that as her Apple ID, because it's not an email address, it's an Apple ID that uses an email address. But it's important to go into your Apple ID and create a secondary email in there, whether it go to your new Gmail account or whatever, because what happens if you have to recover your password and for some reason it gets your birthday wrong always, for some reason it does that, or you don't remember how to spell your first pet's name or something like that. So you go in there and have a second email address attached to it, and that means that if you have to reset it or do anything because your Comcast would stop working, you go ahead and it would send it to your Gmail or whatever. So you have to manage your Apple ID, and you got to understand your Apple ID every day is becoming more and more and more important. And that's going to go into what I'm going to talk about in a sec here. To go off of Yosemite, I'm going to talk about Apple Pay for a minute. So any questions on that email thing?
Well,
that email thing. I mean, like, yeah, we covered all of email just in those 10 seconds.
I think this is related. You know, there's an Apple ID for iTunes, and sometimes they ask for Apple ID, and it's really something else. And I don't see anything in the way they ask the question that tells you which frickin' one you should be entering. And then if you miss twice in a row, guess what? You're lost.
No, you're not. So here's the deal. An Apple ID, first of all, it's daunting. It's an Apple ID. Everybody stresses up, like when you go into the doctor, get your blood pressure tested, your blood pressure goes up, right? Well, it's Apple ID. Oh my God, what do I do? It's like when the cop's behind you on the freeway, right? Okay, don't freak out. It's a username. But you have an Apple ID. You might have had an Apple ID that you go purchase your Mac products with. Your iCloud is an Apple ID. Your iTunes can be the same or a different Apple ID. Now, what that means is you can have separate Apple IDs, but in iCloud, for all your data, in a household, let's say you have husband and wife. The husband might have a different Apple ID and the wife might have a different one. Well, they can combine in iTunes because you can share it. But that doesn't mean that they have the same one in iCloud because it's rather inconvenient. She does quilting and he does golf. They don't want the contacts to mix. So you have separate Apple IDs in iCloud. We have a brand new thing out from Apple, though, which allows you in iTunes to do family sharing. So now each person can have their own iCloud Apple ID, and they can have one cooperative account in iTunes, because you don't want a cooperative account in iCloud or you just use the same one, but in iTunes you do, because if you buy a movie, you both want to be able to have it whenever you want it. So now with family sharing, they're combined under one roof and you don't have this problem we've had before. So everybody's always asked, can we merge our iCloud or our Apple ID accounts? Now, does any one individual here have duplicate Apple IDs? In fact, you had a problem, somebody had a problem with getting, so if that's an Apple ID that you have access to that says you need to use that Apple ID for their perfect example. So if somebody has two Apple IDs, you can be your own family sharing plan, and therefore you'd have access to those apps that you're trying to upgrade. It might have been an old Apple ID, so you have to go in and kind of find out what it is. But in fact, if I have two Apple IDs, I can merge them for iTunes and for the App Store only. Okay?
And if I don't know what it is when I buy it?
If you still, it should show you what the Apple ID is trying to do. It's not the one you recognize, right? So you can go in and try to recover that password if you still have access to that email, or go into Manage Apple ID, put that in, and if not, make an appointment at the Apple Store, or Apple Online can probably help you with that.
It's the password the issue versus the user ID?
It's both, because when you buy an app, okay, so let's think about this for a second. When you buy a movie or buy music or rent a movie, it's for one person, it's for one Apple ID on up to 5 computers and on multiple devices, right? So, because that's what they baked in there. The studios wouldn't let Apple do anything different than that. Apple would have rather just opened it up, but it was a way to get it past the record labels and the movie studios. So, if I purchase something under one or Apple ID, you're a pirate. They think that you're a criminal, and they don't want you to be able to just let anybody else use it. But now, because it's a different Apple ID, you don't have the digital rights management to do it, okay? So what happens is now if you do family sharing, those two Apple IDs libraries are essentially combined and being able to be used by both of them. Now, I have to tell you, certain apps don't allow family sharing. So it'll say in the app whether it does or not, okay?
This is not a family sharing issue about Apple IDs, but when I've had a problem over time, and Apple talk to Apple Tech, and they'll say, I don't know what's happening, so let's just set up another password. Then what I find out is that I'll go into things utterly unrelated to me, and they say they refuse it because it doesn't match. How many things are there in our system that are going to want that basic
All right.
ID?
So the question is if I affect it one place, how does it affect it others? So I always give this scenario of, let's say you're at your house. Let's say you and your family in your house, and they're away for a week, and you change the locks to the house. When they come back, will their key work in your house? Right, because you changed the locks. You have to give them a new key, right? Each of the family members. And you can do it if you want, but that's up to you. But you give them new keys. Now, if I change the locks in my house, Did it change the key to my car? No. Wow. I'm getting a phone call and it's doing this QuickTime thing again. That's bizarre. So let's see if I can get out of this. I'm sorry, but this is weird. I may have to quit the movie again. Sorry, we got to get, because we want to get this on recording because this is pretty good. Come on. It records the ringtone. All right. Let me see if QuickTime's still running on the movie. Yes, the movie's still running, it appears. Great. All right. So.
But it is like you're using a good analogy because what's happening in my perception is that yes, it is saying, oh, that same key has to work on your car, and that same key has to work on.
No, the same key doesn't have to work on the car. Let me follow this through, and please, there'll be questions after this if it's not clear. But so let's pretend like your house and your family members are all your things that the Apple ID affects. For instance, if I'm using Apple Mail, if I'm using iCloud, if I'm using any of those, if I go in online or Apple resets my password to a new key, I have to put that key in everywhere where the iCloud or Apple ID password is, including iTunes and App Store if that's the Apple ID you're using for that iTunes or App Store. So what I've done there is I've distributed those keys to everyone in my family. But my car is my Gmail. Did I change the password on my Gmail? Do I need to change the password on my Gmail? No. The car was not affected by this.
So is the house and the keys really like all things Apple?
If you change, so if I go to Gmail and go in and change my password in Gmail, I put new keys in the car, I have to give whoever else drives the car those keys. But it did not affect my house or my family's keys because it's separate. So, and then people try to go in and change their password in mail, Apple Mail. No, you have to go to wherever you get that mail from and change it there. It'd be the same thing as if you went to the key shop and said, give me a new key, just a new key, any old key. Well, no, you have to change the lock at the house and get a key that matches the house. So you have to go into Gmail itself, change your password there, and then change your password, give the keys to the family, everywhere else Gmail is, but it doesn't affect your Apple ID. Now, what's really nice is on your iOS device, if you change your Apple ID password, a little screen will pop up on all your Apple devices and say, you know what, your password was just changed. Click here, and then you enter the new one. Password hell is what everybody's in. You know what? The fingerprint reader is going to solve that for you. Guaranteed going forward. It's amazing. You will no longer have to use passwords. Okay? Question here, there, and then we'll get to you.
So if let's say I own an Apple computer and an iPad, and I have iTunes and iCloud.
What, you don't have more than that?
No, let's just say I have an Apple computer and an iPad, and I have iTunes and iCloud on both of them. If I change one Apple password, is that really the world of all?
Where are you changing the password?
Well, let's say I was on let's say I got locked out for some reason.
And it says reset password.
Reset, I'm on the iMac, I reset the password.
Correct.
For iTunes.
So that's saying, okay, you're at the house and you change the password, you change the keys to the house, and now your kid is the iPad. You have to give that kid the key also. So what happens is, it'll prompt you, but you have to change, so
it's not going to distribute them.
It won't distribute them, no. Actually, yes it will, but what's weird is that's the new iCloud keychain, but we don't want to get into the depth of that. But the nice thing is, it updates your password in iCloud keychain and matriculates down to all, or propagates down to all your devices, but it will still make you authorize it because the whole idea is it has to make sure everything's very secure. But and that's only with Apple. If it's with Gmail, it'll just say, hey, I can't get your mail, let's reset it. So then we had question, was the next one I said was where here? Or did that answer it? Somebody was in here? Go ahead here.
Okay, my question then is, on your explanation of keys, is my issue with pages, numbers, and keynote is they were preloaded when I bought my device.
Right.
My iMac. And so I guess I'm.
So you have a fairly new iMac since it's a less than a year old Mac?
No. But
When you say they were preloaded,
I mean, when I purchased them at the Apple Store, I brought them home, they were there. Somehow they got there.
Yeah, it came free as part of iWorks.
they only came free starting a year ago. In October.
When I walked out the door and came to my house.
How long ago did you buy it?
3 years.
Me too.
3 years. Did you migrate your information over from a previous computer?
I brought my stuff into.
And you had previously purchased iWork.
No.
Okay.
Mine came free.
You need a new locksmith. But when it comes up and says you need the password, is it giving you an Apple ID that looks a little familiar?
No, I'm not getting anything.
Okay, well let's address it. What you might be able to do is completely delete those off your computer and then try to re-add them. But you know what? Yours is a special use. And again, the Apple Geniuses the store are a great resource for you guys. I'm happy to help, but I charge. They don't.
I know you do.
So don't charge that much. And sometimes I charge. All right, where was was there another question on that? Okay, passwords are tough. It's making it easier. Again, think of them more as keys, and that's why we have what's called keychain access. And just to kind of go into that a little bit, I'm going to show you what keychain access is. Keychain access, you should never go in and modify. You should treat it as read-only. And if I go into my, let's see, here's my time capsule, my network password for my Wi-Fi at my house. This will be safe. So if I so the way you think about this, keychain access. If you owned an apartment complex, every apartment has a unique key to get in the door. And down in the office, in the manager's office, in this special little box mounted on the door with its own key, is all the keys for all those apartments. Forget master keys for a second because that doesn't work. So what this is apartment 3C, they can go down to the manager's office and get the key that they have on file for apartment 3C. So I want to find out what it says my network password is for my time capsule at my house. So if I click show password, it says, uh-oh, we got to go get the manager. We need a key to get this key. In other words, the key it's looking for here is your user password, because you wouldn't want anybody to just be able to get this password from you. It needs administrative privileges, and it needs to be the password for that, so I'll enter it in. And I can say always allow or allow. And there it is, the password to get into my time capsule. Now, I'm pretty safe on that. I don't care about. But what I've just done is, by using my user login, not my Apple ID, my computer login password, to get in, that's opening the key. And now it says, oh, that password for that is this. Do not go in here and modify this, because that's the same thing as just going to the locksmith or the store and say, give me a new key. Well, what do you want it to fit? Because if you change it here, it does you no good. What you let Keychain do is whenever if you change, let's say you go to Amazon.com and you change your Amazon password. What I do is I immediately log out of Amazon and then log back in, and it says, oh, do you want me to update your password? And you say yes. And it's stored in the keychain, and it's very secure. And amazingly enough, that same password now goes over to your iPhone and your iPad because of iCloud Keychain if you have it on. So let it save it. It's protected by your user password. But don't go in here and modify it. But I will tell you, you can type in comments anything you want. Ken told me this should work. It better. Or something like that. But you can put in certain things in comments, because comments show up even without your user ID. So don't put your password in comments, because anybody can see the comments. Okay, question back? Go ahead.
On the iPhone, when is Keychain going to be?
What?
When is Keychain going to be on my iPhone?
It is. If you turn iCloud Keychains on, your iPhone remembers it. So if I get time at the end, we'll go back into this more. But it was a great question about passwords. Believe me, I mean, you can tell by the questions, everybody's dealt with password hell. It's most of the questions I get. Unfortunately, I have a very good memory, so I even get the call, hey, Ken, do you remember my password? And then I kind of like, I'm like, should I let them know I remember it? I don't want to jeopardize that faith they have in me, and I say, and then sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it's really weird how I could. But it's, you know, and I have okay, let's go one step back on passwords, and the people that I've shared this with like it. So I'm going to pretend like I'm not a cat person. Okay, my dog was named Fluffy, let's say. So I'm going to make a password, lowercase, Fluffy1, okay? Now, I want to use that password everywhere. Is that smart? Why? Because if I log into Pizza Hut, if I go to pizzahut.com and I want to sign up for home delivery, they usually want my email address and they want me to make a password. Well, if I have my email address and Fluffy1 is my password, they might say, the guy late at night, he just got done delivering, he didn't get enough tips that night, he's really pissed off, he wants to get into your account. Obviously, you can't do it this way. But he'd say, oh, maybe that's the password for that email. So, if I am signing up at Pizza Hut, now, this should not be a word in the dictionary, but it should be a word you know very well. Okay? Fluffy could be F1 or whatever, but let's just do it Fluffy for ease. So if I go to Pizza Hut and I'm going to sign in to Pizza Hut, I make up a new password and I go capital P, lowercase h, Pizza Hut Fluffy1. So when I go to Pizza Hut, it's pretty easy to, I don't have to write down Fluffy1 because that's my main password for everything. If I go to Wells Fargo, it's capital W, F, Fluffy1. If I want to use my Apple ID, it's Apple, AP, Fluffy1. Now, you have unique passwords everywhere you visit. You only have to remember Fluffy1. And if I go to American Express, is it AM or AX? Oh, I just try whichever one it is. But if I use capital A, lowercase m for American Express, can I use capital A, lowercase m for Amazon? Yes, you can, because who cares if they both have the same one? It's unlikely that would happen. Don't overcomplicate it. Now, to make this better, you would put a number in the middle of the word, but the reason I recommend, I'm trying to get you guys to just do a simple thing because everybody will do it, because right now everybody's using the same damn password everywhere. Or you're using these extreme, incredible passwords and you got these sheets everywhere. They break into your house, they're going to get in. You don't have to write down Fluffy1. So, but the reason I do it this way is think about not your Mac, but your iOS device. Capital letter in the beginning, and then it automatically reverts to lowercase, lowercase, and then I switch to the number keys and it's there. It's ease of entry in that, but remember, once you start being able to use the fingerprint reader, I can then make a very sophisticated password because I never have to enter it and I'll use my fingerprint. In the meantime, now, don't go change all your passwords, but if you're asked to create a new password, if you use this protocol, you'll find it very, very easy. So it's a main part of the word, it's a main thing with a prefix. Okay? Any questions on that? To me, it's a simple way to do it. And you have a unique password everywhere. Protect your email password at all costs because it's the keys to the kingdom. Because if you forget your password at the bank site, what are they going to do? They're going to email it to you. If somebody got your email, you're kind of screwed. And that's one big reason to stop using Yahoo. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, speaking of emails.
Yeah, that's where we kind of started this, wasn't it?
I added my bank to my address book, but yet it sends the email to trash. My bank. It sends it to junk.
To junk, okay. So, in mail, now unfortunately I don't think I have junk set up here. Oh, I do. So, here's the deal. We all get those emails about the blue pill, or enhance this, or enhance that. First of all, that's one main reason to go with Gmail. It has the best spam filter of anyone. So it'll filter out that spam. Unfortunately, it can overfilter. So if you get an email that doesn't show up on your inbox, and Google, we're not talking junk yet, we're talking about Google spam filter, make sure you go to gmail.com and occasionally check your spam filter to make sure a false positive doesn't happen there. I have sent one of my email addresses an email to me at another email address, and it turned in the spam folder. So I go into the spam folder and say not spam, and then Gmail will remember that. So that's spam in gmail.com. On the webmail is the only way you can actively do your spam with Gmail. Now this isn't junk. We're going to talk about junk. We're going to talk about junk mail in a second. We don't want to. Yeah, Jim got it. Anyway, so that's where you have to do it. If you think they sent you an email, you don't know where it is. Go into your spam folder at gmail.com. And actually, if you have Gmail set up, believe it or not, oh no, it doesn't show here. Okay, so the next thing is, and I'll give you an example. The Apple Store used to be, in Arden Fair, used to be closer to JCPenney. And I subscribed to JCPenney to get their ads. Because I knew if I was going to the Apple Store, I'd go through the JCPenney, go upstairs like that. So I wanted to know if there was something there. But I don't need that in my inbox. So I told my Apple Mail, and now you can do it on your iOS device finally, I told it it's junk. Now that doesn't mean I don't want to get it. It just means I don't want it in my inbox. And it will stay in my junk folder for 30 days. And after that, it just goes away. So if it's an ad from JCPenney, it's unlikely it's going to last 30 days, but in fact, it will just go away. So now, if I'm heading to the Apple Store at Arden Fair, I go into my junk folder and look at this. Thicker, longer, oh God, it's embarrassing. Steinmart. Now, of course, this is because I monitor my 90-year-old mother's account, so that's why that comes in. Orchard Supply, yeah, I don't care if it goes in junk. But the beauty of it is, if it's in I've told it to go into my junk folder, and it's in my junk folder, I'm using it as a tool. Now, if I get that thing about, enlarging this or making that or whatever, I tell it it's junk. Don't just delete it from your regular email. Tell it it's junk because it needs to learn that it's junk. Once it's learned it's junk, it will bypass your inbox totally. But once it's in your junk folder, like in your case, it's showing up in your junk folder, you go into the junk folder, and let's see if there's anything here. Gazelle, that's actually shouldn't be in my junk, so I'll click there. So now Amazon. Amazon has different types of emails. If I get an order, I don't want it in my junk folder, but if it's an ad from Amazon, I want it. And it's determined by the email address. So if I go here to Gazelle, and I tell it, and I say, I'll tell it it's junk, but then I have to tell it it's not junk. It was already in my junk folder, so it learned somewhere else it was junk. But if you tell that Wells Fargo, was it Wells Fargo or whatever? It doesn't matter. Okay, so if you tell it it's not junk, now it's learning, he doesn't want that to be junk. Now, if you want it in your inbox, you drag it to your inbox, but if you tell it it's not junk, next one you get won't go to junk.
Can you do that again? Do that again.
Okay, so we'll just use the one example I have here. So I'm going to tell this it's junk. So if you look right here, and we look over here on the right, I have this thing. It thinks I've told it to tell it it's junk, but also it does, you don't have to, stuff ends up in your junk folder that you didn't tell it was junk. Sometimes you get false positives, like your bank, for instance.
So you have to view to get that not junk box.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do that in a second. I kind of went right by that. But if you want to look on the right here, this will be up here. So what this says is, on these emails, if it's in your junk folder, it's not going to load all the that's like a big HTML file. It's not going to load images. So I told it to load it, but now I can tell it it's not junk, and it will unlearn it. Okay. If you get something in your inbox that is junk, Johnny Jet, Groupon Goods. Steinmart, that's for mom. Let's see, I don't want to. See, most of mine I've kind of trained it that it's. So anyway, Michael's. Yeah, that's probably for my mom. So I'm going to tell it it's junk right there. And now it's going to go to my junk folder. Next time one comes in, it'll go from there. But let me show you one thing up at the top. This was the question. So when you get mail, so I have a, Apple likes to be very minimalist. And the human eye picks up colors and shapes very well. So Apple decided to make all the mail icons one shape and one color, so you couldn't differentiate them. So if you two-finger click on a trackpad or right-click on a mouse or control-click up in the gray area, you turn this into icon and text. Look, I use this all the time, and I don't know what the hell those damn icons mean. So I did it up there, or I can go to View, Customize Toolbar, and it's right down here. Okay? Text only, icon only, which is the way it ships, or icon and text. Okay? That's huge. Now, I've done it on my main viewer, right? What happens when I hit New Message? Oh, actually it is now. It didn't used to do it. I don't think it used to do it system-wide. Let's see here. I may have, see, I can't tell what I've fixed. See here? You have to fix it on virtually every screen, but once it's set, it's set. Okay? So that's part of the mail class we do, but M-A-I-L. But it's important to show that, and a bunch of hands are up, so we'll start here.
I get brown sometimes, but it may be or may not be marked as junk. I think it's coming through a filter, and I need to tell it what it is.
So if it's brown, look at it and see if it says, if your option, so what happens is your not junk option depends on what it thinks it is. So if it's brown and it says junk, that's telling it a second time it's junk. The brown's kind of I've had that happen where the brown used to mean it was junk, but it may not. So what I do in a case like that is I tell it not junk, tell it junk, so it really remembers it. So it's just a little anomaly, but that's where that helps. Thumbs up is not junk, thumbs down is junk, okay? So did that answer that for you?
I found it last night. I moved it to inbox, and I found I had to, when I was trying to shift and get a bunch of them, I had to tell it not junk and then junk for all the junk. And sometimes when I get junk, it just went straight into, was it trash? I couldn't remember if it's trash or not.
Well, it depends on your server settings on that. So let's look at this really quick, and it'll be on the recording. If we go into mailbox behaviors in system preferences accounts, and you can say junk. See, I normally, it says, I tell my junk messages to delete after they're 1 month old. Because if I've told it if I've told it to go to junk, I don't want to have to go manage my junk folder. I want it to just delete it after 1 month old. If I haven't looked at it by then, it's gone. And yeah, I try to make sure I get the false positives out of there. But you can do it for never. That's up to you. For instance, that's why I like on a Gmail account, I love it over the others. You get 15 gigabytes of free storage. You know what? I used to think I was a hoarder until I watched one of those shows. But I have, with my multiple email accounts, you don't even see them all here, I have over 100,000 email messages. But I'll tell you what, as soon as I delete one of them, I know I'll need it. And it doesn't cost me more to have them. It doesn't take up very much room at all. But because you have to have, because I don't categorize and use folders a lot and stuff, because you have such great search capabilities within your Mac that it really makes it, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Now, yeah, I mean, if I get ads and stuff, I'll delete them now and stuff, but that's another reason to use Gmail over like Comcast and stuff is if I tell it it's junk here or delete a message, it'll propagate to all my devices. That's using IMAP server. So right there, and then we'll do you, Charles.
Okay, you see that white toolbar across your screen?
Uh-huh. Is yours black?
What?
Go ahead.
No, it's, the problem I have is that I can never see that.
Ah, you're in jail. So this affects whether you're in Yosemite or not in Yosemite. Who likes full screen mode? Or who feels like, oh my God, what have I done? Well, full screen mode is this, right? Everything disappears that we used to know. But this looks more like an iPad now. So on Mavericks and previous, you can go up to the top up here, and there's a little blue square. That gets you out of full screen mode. But what you want to think about is, I'm in full screen jail. I don't want to be in full screen jail. So what do you want to do to get out of jail? You escape. And if you hit the escape key on your keyboard, upper left is escape key. You want to escape from full screen jail. That's how you do it. The escape key. Now, I got to tell you, in Yosemite, it's different. I'm about to. I had to take a deep breath first. So remember the green dot? The green dot used to resize our window bigger and smaller, right? I'm holding the Option key in Yosemite because if I hit the green dot in Yosemite, it gives me full screen mode. And if I hit the green dot in Yosemite, it gets me out of full screen mode. But if I hold the Option key, it gives me what I'm used to. Or if I double click on the header, it gives me what I'm used to with the green dot. I double click on the header. Okay?
You lost me. Where's the Option key?
The Option key is on your keyboard. So if I hold the Option key and click on the green dot, it acts. Let me get this in a little. I'm going to show you a better example. So this is how our window normally is. The green dot before used to just expand and contract within where you had set it last, okay? But now if I don't hold the Option, so in Yosemite, I have to hold the Option key to get what I'm familiar with. Now, if I hit the green dot in Yosemite without holding the Option key, I get that. And when I come back to where it was. So that's full screen mode now. But if I go up into this gray area and double tap on the top, it gives me the old way the green dot worked. Okay? Yellow dot and red dot still act the same. But I'll show you a little trick I found out today when Bob White was here. It was really amazing. I can now go. You know how you can resize a window by coming down here? You know, you can resize a window all you want. You could grab this side and move it in. You could grab the bottom and move it up and down. But watch now, if you go to the very top, this I thought was incredible. I can resize down from the, oh, yeah, I'm resizing. See how the window stays the same size? Normally you grab it and you move the window around, right? If I come up right to the edge and I get these little vertical arrows, I can oop, that didn't do it. I got to get the vertical arrows. I'm resizing the window from the top.
That's only in Yosemite.
Yeah, it might work in others. If you guys are on the other operating system, try it. I've never seen that way before, and I haven't read it anywhere. So anyway, we had a question right behind you. There was someone there. Oh, it was Charles. Go ahead.
Why are you using Gmail instead of mail?
Why am I using Gmail instead of mail? I'm using mail to get my Gmail. Okay? So Safari is a browser, and Google Chrome's a browser, and Firefox is kind of a browser. Okay? It's actually gotten pretty good. But those are browsers, and those allow you to view the internet. Now, if I go into Safari, I can go to gmail.com and look at it in Safari. But then I see the ads, all this other stuff, and it doesn't interact with iPhoto, it doesn't interact with Pages, it doesn't interact with all that stuff. Apple Mail is what they call a mail client, M-A-I-L, mail client, and it goes and gets your mail for you. But it doesn't mean you couldn't be on a PC and use Outlook to go get them. You can even use it on your Mac if you have to. Please, if you're using Outlook, do yourself a favor, migrate over to Mail when you can. Microsoft isn't your friend on that either, but it just goes and checks your mail. But the beauty of it is I can have multiple accounts right here. I have a Gmail and an iCloud account, and I can click on just my Google, I can click on my iCloud, or I can click on my inbox, and it shows me both of them. And look at this, it shows me which account it's in, my iCloud, there's my Google, etc. It'll show you what account it's looking at. Okay? So that's why I use Apple Mail, because it's tied in with a lot of other stuff. Because if I go and hit a new message, I can go right here and go to my photo browser, and I can take a photo and drop this photo right into my email and go from there. You can't do that with the web browser. Okay? So Apple Mail, and we'll have a class after the first of the year again on Apple Mail. There's not a lot that's changed in Mail for Yosemite. So this is a Yosemite class, so we're going to kind of back out of Mail here. a bit.
You got that message in Gmail, and you sent it, returned it, and
Nick, I use Apple Mail, and Gmail comes to Apple Mail, and I can send to my Gmail from there. I can send to any. I can use Comcast. I can use Yahoo. Use any of those, and you can combine all the accounts into one. So Mail's great for that. Go ahead.
Yes, you were talking about the background color blue on your emails. I'm getting occasionally black as a background with white text, and it's not often. I don't know. That's happened.
In the body of the mail or in the messages?
In the messages.
You might have a filter or a setting addressing the mail. There might be a filter or setting. Anybody else getting that? It's probably a unique setting in there. So I can look at it separately, send me an email, or when we do an email class, we can go over that, because I really want to get onto Yosemite. Are these mail questions?
Well, this was Yosemite. When I upgraded Yosemite.
Oh, it started doing it.
Yes.
Well, okay, let me show you in Yosemite. Now, I don't know if this will affect it or not, but this is one thing I wanted to show you in Yosemite that I actually like, but it's not gotten a lot of great reviews. Oh, by the way, you'll notice my dock is on the left, okay? Think about your screen. You don't have to reinvent it if you don't want to, but the screen is built just like me. It's wider than it is tall. So if my dock is on the bottom, which it is by default, wow, they don't have the dock up there anymore. So I'll go up here and I'll go to dock, and I'm going to say position on bottom. Okay? So look what happens. I keep bumping into that when I'm writing a letter or doing anything else. If I move it to the left, because my screen has more width than it has height, it gives you all that free space at the bottom.
But the icons are a lot bigger on the bottom.
And they take up a lot more room. But you know what? Yeah, but you know what? When you get to it, so you can make the icons magnify if you want. I can say magnification. But the thing is you don't have to use the dock for your apps. If I just go over here in Spotlight and just start typing iPhoto, boom, I launch that app right from there. So the dock is kind of good old home week, but the bigger it is on the bottom, it's the more real estate it's taken up. Your screen real estate's really expensive. Why not make it out of something useful? I mean, you don't have to use the dock. You can make your dock disappear, but then the problem is you go down there, whoop, pops up every time you get near it. So I'm not trying to reinvent your workflow, but I think you should try it for 2 weeks. I think you'll like it. Okay, so back into system preferences in Yosemite. Now, our general tab does a couple things, and if you haven't upgraded yet, does anybody have this problem that they're over on the side and they look for the scroll bar and it disappears right when we get there? This has happened since 8.5, actually since 8.0. So you always want to make your cursor always appear. Look on my window here in Safari over here on this side. I'm going to tell it automatically disappear. So what happens is when I scroll, it's there. Now I'm going to slowly go over. Ah, it disappeared. How can I go grab it? Okay? So when I go into System Preferences, I want that scroll bar to show up all the time. You can still drag it. That's an old way to do it. But in fact, you can just scroll up and down with your trackpad or your mighty mouse. Go ahead.
Can you make that scroll bar wider? Moving to Mavericks, it shrank, and now...
It's the same it was in Mavericks it went small like that. But you know what? Why?
Because if I have another window behind it, sometimes I'll open that one instead of the one that I'm trying to scroll.
So open this window wide enough to miss it. But here's what happens with that. Let me show you what we can do here. Is I've got two Safari windows.
Ads, it keeps wanting me to buy the ad.
Well, that's because you click on it. But you'll notice here, I've got one window behind the other. If I move my cursor over this and then scroll, it scrolls. It's not an active window, but it's whatever window my cursor is over.
No, but if I go...
So just resize your windows. There's no cure for that. Just resize your windows. Why would you want your scroll bar to take up more room for you not to mouse correctly when you're taking up valuable real estate?
That much room, and I like to click. I don't like to scroll down. I like to click on the scroll bar. And if I do that, but I'm off on the other window, the other window pops up.
Then you understand why you shouldn't be doing that. It is for you, but I'll bet you it's not a pain in the ass for the majority of these users here. What kind of mouse do you use?
Often the key.
Oh, if you want to scroll down, here's a great way to scroll down screen by screen. Just hit your space bar. Just hit your space bar. That gives you, because you're clicking down, you're getting a full page every time you scroll, right? Just hit your space bar. And if you want to go back up, you shift space bar. Okay? So let me show you, since we're talking about scroll bars, because this is not usually talked about. You'll notice how the scroll bar behind it is a longer scroll bar than this one. The scroll bar is a percentage of what it's showing you. In other words, this page is a really long page, right? This page is not a very long page. So in other words, in 1, 2, 3 clicks, I've seen the whole page, right? Or if I go to this other window, it's going to take multiple clicks. But again, the space bar is the key. If you're in Safari, this works on not every app, but it definitely works in Safari and has for a long time. You just hit the space bar and it gives you a full page at a time. Okay? And if I hit the shift, it goes the other way. Okay? So I hope that'll cure it for you. You'll get used to it. There's also a, if you have a customizable mouse, you might be able to make a mouse click that says that's page down that you could click on. All right. So let's see here. Oh, so what I was getting into was setting it as use dark menu bar and dock. And I actually kind of like this. So here's dark menu bar. Here's this. Now what's really cool is when I go up here to window, these are kind of transparent and they just kind of stay out of the way a bit. And I think it's pretty good. I like the dark mode. And it actually kind of reminds you that you're in Yosemite. I can't remember if it does, did it install dark mode on its own? I've been beta testing it so long, so I can't remember. Did it do dark mode or light mode? Light, okay, so you can change it to dark if you want. Not a huge deal.
From where? Preferences?
And you go into System Preferences. Oops, not App Store, I don't want the App Store. System Preferences. In general, that's where you want to fix your scrolling, right? You want to make it always. The little scroll bar will show up there, but you do want to have that because it just is a good indicator. And then you use dark mode or don't use dark mode. I particularly like it because the dock looks better because, you know, on the dock it shows you if an application is running, and in this mode, well, actually it shows a little better than it used to. But in Mavericks, it was really hard to tell if an app was running or not. Okay, Jim?
Since you're customizing, if you have 2 users, can you customize for each user?
Yeah, so system preferences are for each user. So since, you know, you and Nina, you guys, you customize it within yourself, whether the dock's on the left, whether you want to do dark mode, etc. Everything is customizable within that user. It's not system-wide. Okay, so you'll have to fix her scroll bar too. So, I have a bunch of links on here, and what I'll do is I'll post these links on the website where, I've got a whole bunch of different tips and stuff on it, and there's just so many features in here. We talked about the phone calls, etc. This is actually a kind of neat one that's Macworld UK, but it's got different things that it works. Now remember, if you have a Mac that's older than 2012, certain features won't work, but most you'll view it, it'll work fine. It's just some of the handoff features and things like that. So I wanted to reserve a little time to talk about Apple Pay, but let's do Yosemite questions first. Go ahead.
You said that it was just as well to hold off a little bit until they come out with the next dot version. Do you know how long that might be?
No, but it won't be long. 3 months. I got to say, it's been very solid, but I want to give you the advice, whether you follow it or not. Again, you look around the room, the problems these aren't problems with Yosemite that people have had. They're underlying problems that would have happened in any OS upgrade. I think it's very safe and secure, but I want to warn you of the pitfalls. And again, the majority of what I talk about are pitfalls are the developer's stuff not working, the other outside of Apple apps not working. The little quirkiness about I get a phone call and it comes up QuickTime on here, when in fact this computer doesn't support those phone call handoffs. That one's wacko. I got to figure out why that happened. But little things like that, that's a little thing, but you just want to make sure a major thing doesn't happen. And if you question it, send me an email. And as I tell everybody, if you send me an email or leave me a text message, if I don't respond in 24 hours, assume I'm dead or in jail or I missed it. You saw how many emails I get. It's not nagging me to send me a reminder, okay? And you can say, second time, and, oh, okay, I'll get right to that. Because when I'm with a client, I don't answer my phone. I don't answer emails because that's your time when I'm with you, and I think that's appropriate. And so luckily with Siri, I can answer emails and on all that in my car hands-free, so I'm able to do that. But also when you get an email from me from Siri, excuse the misspellings and don't take it literal because sometimes there'll be things I've said that aren't what I said. Oh, great example was I sent a client had me put a solid state drive in their MacBook Pro, which is wonderful. If you want the best thing you'll ever do to your computer is put a solid state drive in it. And I sent her an email and I said, your new MacBook Pro is all souped up and ready to go. It said it's all sold up, S-O-U-L, and in her mind, the S was an F, and it's all fouled up. And it's like, and she wrote it back, I'm in church, my battery's almost dead. I said, no. And then I looked at what it said. Oh, it's okay, don't worry, your souped up computer is ready to go. So it auto-corrected souped, which just, anyway, so, but her sold computer was all good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Earlier in this class, and I might not have understood it right. I believe you said something about iCloud Drive, shut it off.
No, don't shut it off. When you upgrade your iOS device, and if you upgrade to Yosemite, if it gives you the option to go to iCloud Drive, and it will probably give you the warning that says all your Apple devices must be on 8.1 or Yosemite to do it, I would recommend saying not at this time because you don't want it to screw things up. And so that's why I'm going to be doing a class about iCloud Drive and stuff. So it could make it so a lot of us are using the older version of Pages, a lot of older version of Keynote and stuff. It would upgrade all your documents and things like that. So I'd rather come into it rather than automatically. If you don't have any stuff in iCloud, don't worry about it. Yeah, upgrade. But other than that, it won't affect all your syncing your phones or anything else. It has to do just with the storage of documents and things on your iCloud. iCloud Drive is going to be great. And believe me, it was one of the best parts about what Apple's announced recently. So
We had iCloud Drive on all of our devices.
no, you had iCloud.
No, we had iCloud Drive.
How long ago?
How long have we had it turned on? Since
A month?
Yeah.
More than a month?
Probably.
It only started with 8.1.
Whenever,
Okay, then that must have been
all the devices now say.
Or 8.0, excuse me, 8.0.
iCloud Drive on or off. And they were, on all the devices, they were on.
Okay, then if it's on, you've already done it and it hasn't created problems, you're okay. I'm just saying walk carefully because if people have older documents, it's going to update the documents and stuff. And the safety valve is to go that way. If it's already done it, don't undo it. You're fine.
Okay, fine. Then we'll turn it right back on.
It's an
Just shut it off.
oh yeah. So I'm sorry, and it's good for clarification. Don't turn if it's already done it. You can't undo it.
Okay.
So you're okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully you have a backup. No, it should be fine. Actually, go ahead.
How about Keychain and Back to My Mac? They're both off and have been. With the
So Back to My Mac is a way if your computer's online it's a way to get into your computer and stuff. It's somewhat useful. There's other ways to do it, but iCloud Keychain is wonderful because that means like if you put new keys in the house here, it's going to propagate to your other devices. But they also have to have iCloud Keychain on, and it takes some. You have to do some, it has to know, I'm going to send a text to your phone because it knows your phone is a trusted device. And so it does back and forth. Also, if you plug your phone or your iPad into your computer and it says, do you want to trust this computer? If it's your computer, say yes. If you happen to be plugging in somebody else's, say don't trust. Because what happens is, remember this whole handoffs and everything, there's an implicit trust that's developed between those devices. Okay?
CPU between my ears is slowing down. Did you say?
I know, I talk too fast. That's why it's on the record.
But did you just say don't upgrade apps until we get Yosemite? Or I mean the most recent one, or does it matter? I'm on Maverick.
For the apps?
Yeah.
So the apps shouldn't make a difference between, I mean, there's some enhanced features in Yosemite, and believe it or not, there's a lot of things these app developers can actually pull out of Yosemite that can make them do more than they ever have, just like in iOS 8. The apps, there are other apps, you're going to have some wonderful camera apps coming out that can let you set the f-stop and everything else, because Apple's allowing them sequestered access to this parts of it, and it's wonderful. But you can always upgrade your apps. Now, if you're, let's say you're on iOS 7 on your phone, and it says there's an app upgrade, it'll say, hey, look, I'm sorry, do you want to download the new app, or do you want us to download the latest compatible version of that app? So they're letting in the App Store, keeping a, say, a iOS 7 version of it, because 8 changed dramatically. So they're saying, oh, because what had happened is you get in there and all of a sudden the 8 app doesn't work in 7. Well, and that's kind of here too. But usually if it's in the App Store, it's pretty good to go. So, and here my QuickTime screen's going to come up again. Let me see if I can get, because the phone's ringing. Oh, it's not doing it perfectly. Great. For now, shut up, Ken. Yeah, I'm going to go Apple Pay right now. So I got to wait till my phone gets done because I want to put it on the screen.
Well, while that's ringing,
Yeah.
real quick, for whatever reason, if we had to change a password or whatever, and other questions are going to come up, maybe we have to change other things, should we be leaving keychain access unlocked or locked if we are not in that moment changing a password?
It's usually locked, and you usually only, when you mean like when you enter the password
the little padlock icon that's the whole thing for getting in or out of keychain access, should that be shut or open? If I'm
on your
changing
Mac?
a password,
On your Mac?
yeah. Mine says unlocked on my iPhone.
Oh, because I was just in there. So you know what happens is when you log out, log back in, it'll lock again. But I had said always allow on that. Let's put it this way. The only vulnerability you have is if somebody accesses your device. But let's see, it's unlocked. Let's see if it asks me for my user ID password for, see, it's unlocked and it's still asking me for my user passcode.
So it's still safe. All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's good question on that. And I've just looked past it in the past. So, all right. Quick question, because we're going to go to Apple Pay.
How do we access that window? Tips and tricks for Yosemite.
That window.
On keychain, if you go in and
Hang on one sec. Oh, this one that's down here, this one. I'm going to put links in there, but it's Macworld UK. So if you put in, I think the title of it was 20 lesser known. So if you do a Google of that, and that'll be on recording. I'm going to put these links in where I post on the website. So there is actually a tips and tricks that comes up, like on here in iOS 8.1. You can explore that. So then your question back there.
So if you go into keychain, would you want to delete older?
God, no. Just, you guys, keychain is read only, okay? Yes, you can put stuff in it, but you're going to screw it up. Don't manage your keychain. Like I said, if you go to Amazon.com and you've changed your password, immediately log out, because you're going to remember, hopefully, that long that you just did a new password. Log in, put in your new password, and it's going to say, do you want me to update the password in keychain? And say yes, and it'll take care of it. And that way you don't have 6 iterations of the password. But also, that's where you can go get your password, like we were able to do yesterday, to be able to find what your passwords are. Now, I have a password sheet you can fill out, and if you go to kenspencer.com, I'll show you where this is. But again, it's filling it out. And again, our password stuff is going to be cured within the next year because of Fingerprint Reader. If you go to my website, click on Mac Sheets, and then there's this right here, and it's It's where you can enter all your passwords, and if you go down here and open it in preview, you can type it in if you want. It's really designed to write it in. But also there's a bunch of Macintosh keyboard shortcuts here. And my info's on this, so this is my business card essentially.
Where do you put that to be safe?
Don't write your passwords down.
Oh. I see, I see.
Right upside down and do back to front. I mean, yeah, it's not, I mean, let's put it this way. Now, you guys all know, how many here have iMacs? You know the little band along the bottom, that's first password sticky notes. That's why Apple designed that. So don't use a Sharpie, use a sticky note, okay? But yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, no, but it's a way, because people manage it, but again, I go in there and they have all these things, and it happens all the time, and we're all stuck there. But that's why Fluffy can be your friend. Don't have to write anything down. Okay.
You shouldn't use a word that can be found in the
Yeah, I said that when I did this. I was just using this as an example. Or if you put a number in the middle. But look, this isn't the safest password. The safest password is let Keychain develop a password that's virtually uncrackable. But good luck you're not going to remember it. But with Keychain iCloud, it'll put it in wherever you need it. But you have to have Keychain iCloud on, because it's like a 16-digit number with spaces and little things and, you know, all that around it. So, all right. Has anyone used Apple Pay? Oh, God, another call. Has anyone used Apple Pay? Where'd you use it? I'm sorry? At the Apple Store. It's funny how they take it. So, I have...
Who else accepts it?
But I climbed the second floor.
I go into Passbook, right here. And those of you that were at the general meeting got to see my credit card number as... I'm not going to do that again. But I took a picture of my credit card.
Tried to make a charge on your card.
What's that?
May I tell him about the gentleman who spoke up?
Oh, he didn't. He was kidding.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, but go ahead.
He tried, it was hysterical. This man stood up and wanted Ken to know that he had tried to make a charge on Ken's card, but it was overdrawn.
And he was trying to buy one of the new Retina iMacs, which I had just talked about. So, and then I said, oh, I have a low limit on that card. Did that fool anybody? Anyway, so there's a bit of a controversy out right now, but let me explain Apple Pay first and then tell you why it's the Apple way. First of all, Apple is concerned about you as a user. You've not heard me say that about Adobe or Microsoft or anybody else. Apple's big concern is you as a user. You're their customer, and they know that. They want to make things easy for you. They want to make it better, but they want to make it very secure, which they can do because they make the software and the hardware. But more importantly, they want to keep your privacy. When you get Gmail, it doesn't read your mail, but if you go to gmail.com, if you're searching for 2x4s, you're going to see Home Depot and Lowe's ads, right? Well, that's just because it's reading your email. A computer says, well, if you're looking for a Chevy Volt, you want to get results for Chevy Volt, but you don't want a Ford dealer in there. But a Ford dealer could advertise, but in fact, you're going to get appropriate advertising to what it is in there. It's just like in the search. So Google makes all the money in the world, not as much as Apple. They make it because of all those ads, and they're very successful at it. And as soon as Google's search is no longer relevant, if another search company came along, Google's ad revenues would drop, because it's just like the billboard on the freeway. At the middle of at the Madison split, a billboard there is going to command a lot more money than one that's on a side road up in Placerville. Okay? So it's how many eyeballs they get. Google's the big player. Google's doing a great job of trying to make those search results very relevant. But there's privacy concerns, but believe me, your privacy concerns with Google are a lot less than most, but realistically, they disclose all of it, so it makes it look like they're doing more things. But Apple does it one step better. Apple does not make money off you from advertising. Apple makes money by selling you hardware. It's called the Apple tax. But it's really not a tax. Because every Apple device lasts 2 to 3 times as long as other equivalent devices. It also has a resale value, and it comes with great software. And Apple's philosophy is if they build great software, you'll want to buy their hardware. And that's the basis of everything, okay? And knowing that they don't have to make money off your demographics, understand that even though they raise the red flag, Apple's doing this, Apple's doing that, my God, they're not. They don't need to. But because when you're the top dog, you know, when you ain't the lead dog, the view never changes. So everybody's trying to hit Apple for different things. Your privacy is their big concern. iMessage, for instance, the little blue messages you do back and forth between your devices. If I send someone an iMessage, they can read it, I can read it, and no one else in the world can read it. It's fully encrypted from end to end, and Apple doesn't even have the key, nor do they allow a backdoor. So what's that mean? NSA can't even read it. The FBI is up in arms because they aren't going to be able to have access to this information because all of us are criminals. No, Apple says we aren't criminals, and we're not going to hinder the people that are honest and lump them into those people that are criminals. So if Apple gets a search warrant, what they have to respond to, they say, we don't even have the keys. We don't have that information. Now, yes, there's some stuff up on the cloud and things like that that they would have to divulge, but believe me, they're going to do that battle not to. But as far as what they're doing is they're trying to lock down this privacy. So, Apple Pay. This will only, so Target, Home Depot, any other big breaches lately? Staples had a breach. Yeah, the banks have all had breaches. So you got to remember, Apple and Google, you haven't heard of breaches from them. And part of the reason is they spend the money protecting, and they do it right. They spend a ton of money protecting that data from hackers because they take money out of the marketing budget to do it, because think how big of a hit it would be if Google or Apple got hacked. Billions of dollars in market value would drop. So they say, let's proactively get ahead of it and make sure we spend the money protecting that stuff so it won't happen. And that's a smart company. Now, Covered California got hacked and all this other stuff. But Apple Pay, so another big problem. So the problem is when you do a credit card transaction, the Target thing, it got through their airwaves and it got all your stuff there. And if you had a red card, all that other crap. Well, somebody intercepted it because you can't account for every vulnerability that's out there. It just can't. It happens. But Apple came up with a brilliant solution. They introduced it at the Worldwide Developer Conference, and 4 months later, it's active. So you take a picture of your credit card. It puts in your credit card number, if it can read it. I have one credit card, actually my Chase card, actually my Wells Fargo card had not a very good easy, you couldn't read the number very well. So I took a picture of the card. It took the expiration date, which I actually had to correct because I tried to enter. It says, not valid. It didn't get it perfectly, but then I have to manually enter the CVV code that's on an American Express, the 4 digits on the front. On the other cards, it's the 3 digits on the back. I had to manually enter that. At that time, it sends that information to my card issuer and says, okay, yeah, he's authorized, he's good, go ahead and do it. Now, that picture doesn't exist anywhere. It was temporary, and what it comes back with is just the last 4 digits of my card number, which is what you typically get on any receipt. Okay? So the last 4 digits of my card number here, and now someone could hack in, well, they can't hack into my phone, but if they could, that's all they'd ever see. So what I do now is I go to McDonald's. In fact, today for lunch, I get a salad at McDonald's. At the drive-up or at the counter, they have this little device that's not Apple Pay only. It works for other NFCs. There's what's called a near-field communication chip in here. This only works with the 6 and the 6 Plus. I hover it over it. If my phone is in off mode, if it's just dark, it'll sense it's there. It'll wake up. It'll put my default credit card on the screen, and I say, hold the fingerprint reader, and I've just paid for it, and I go away. It's that quick. And the beauty of the system is it generates a one-time use number for that transaction, And what is a one-time use number other than it can only be used one time? So if a hacker is there somewhere and they intercept that number, good luck using a one-time use number twice. It can't happen. So your credit card number never gets to the retailer. None of your information gets to the retailer. They can't track you. Now, you could still do your little savings card or whatever you want beforehand, but for your payment, it just says a number, and it's totally transparent to the retailer. It's quick, it's easy, and it is super secure. So secure the credit card companies and the banks are embracing it fully because it is very secure, because they pay a lot for fraud. And the merchants really have, a good side for them is a lot of times they get back charged for fraud. So it's in everybody's best interest. Now, that being said, there's been some talk out there about this thing called MCX and current C. So, huh?
And they got hacked.
Yep, kind of. Current C, or from a consortium of retailers, Best Buy, Walmart, Home Depot, a few of the others, in 2012 started this collaboration to do transactions from an iPhone or from a smartphone, and they use a little QR code and everything. They're not even using this NFC chip. But what they're trying to do is sidestep the credit card companies because they pay fees to the credit card companies. But the only way they can get you to pay for something is they have to have direct access to your bank account. It's like, it's worse than a debit card because you're directly in there and they do it. Now, would you trust Target or Home Depot to have direct access to your bank account? Okay? And again, they're trying to push the credit card companies out of the way. Apple's bit in this is they're making 1.5% out of the transaction. It's a total break even for them. I mean, it's probably even costing them more. But the idea is it's locked to an Apple device, and when you get the watch, it will work. So you have to have a 6 or a 6 Plus, and if you get the watch, it will work with the, they say the 5, I'm not sure, but I know the 5S because it uses the fingerprint reader. So what if somebody steals my watch? As soon as my Apple Watch is off my wrist, it goes dead from everything you want it to do. It'll still be a watch, but it won't do anything because it's not sensing it's on a live person's body. When I put it back on my arm, it asks me to authorize that watch on my phone, and once it's authorized, then I can use it for Apple Pay too. Apple Pay is super secure. It's a great reason to have a 6 or a 6 Plus. I'm not saying rush out and get it because of that, but it is really the future, and it's got a groundswell of effort. I mean, the banks that are behind it are just phenomenal. I really think Apple's gonna win the day, and this little consortium that started in 2012, they've only released it to a few beta testers, and those beta testers' emails were already hacked. So there's a lot of confidence there.
They just want to keep track of your purchases.
Yeah, they want to keep track of your purchases, but they want to directly debit the money from your account because they don't like paying that 1 to 4% that they pay to the credit card companies. But you know what? How many here have miles cards and get bonuses and rewards? I was a retailer for many years, and I hated credit cards, but my feeling is, as a retailer, first of all, it takes a lot. They don't realize how much money it takes to manage cash. But secondly, customers buy more if they use a credit card. So they're missing the boat on this whole thing. And believe me, I think it'll get shot down in flames. The problem is there's a fine in this MCX group if they go use an NFC thing that's not in their group. They were trying to keep everybody close, but already there's starting to be people going away from it. So I think it's going to fail, and hopefully it fails.
And more than one person can use the same 6 or 6 Plus to use Apple Pay.
Yeah, so what you can do is you could put you have a fingerprint reader, you can put up to 5 fingerprints, you put different fingerprints in there.
2 iPhones dealing with the same account.
What you would do is put the credit card into the second iPhone. So you can do that because that's authorized, yes. And the iPad does not do it at this point. The new iPad 2 Air has an NFC chip in it, but it's not Apple Pay compatible. And you got to remember the majority of Apple our iPads don't have constant internet connection, so I don't know. There's some speculation that that may be a new register type thing where you Apple Pay at the register. I'll be taking Apple Pay as soon as it's available. You know, I use a new Square card. But there's got a big change in the credit card business right now. Within the next 2 years, everyone will have a chip on their credit card and you will enter a PIN. The magnetic strip is going the way it is. The reason we're seeing so many hacks right now is the rest of the world uses chip and PIN. Our banks have been very slow and the retailers to adopt chip and PIN, and the problem is now all these hackers in the world, it's like a petri dish. The smaller you make the petri dish, the more concentrated everything is. They're hacking everything in the US because that's the only place that's left vulnerable. So you know what? Don't reward that. Go to some place where you're not vulnerable.
When you use Apple Pay, like this morning at McDonald's, what kind of response do you get that says that the payment has gone?
I just get, so what happens is I put it next to the device. I either have it on or off, but otherwise when it's next to the device, it wakes my phone and simply put my fingerprint reader on it and I get a little and then it says done and their receipt starts printing on their end. Sometimes at the register though, if they're at the register, they haven't got this down yet. They have to hit a button to make it so you slide your card. It's just like as if you slid a card. They have to go that part of it, but it's really simple and the fingerprint reader has gotten better and better, and I have ways to make it recognize your fingerprint better. But I'll tell you, it's as fast as can be, and they're not all as impressed anymore because they've seen it a lot. But I kind of liked when I was doing it right away, and it was. I mean, I had to rush out and just do it as soon as I could because I have to do it for you guys.
Can you use a debit card also?
Yes, but you shouldn't. Actually, you're very secure here. But here's a little thing. You guys, if you want to know this stuff, go to clarkhoward.com. He rails on it immensely. A debit card, the bank is not under any obligation to secure fraudulent purchases. Now, and this is a good case to use this, and yes, you can use a debit card, but generally speaking, just for frame of reference, if you use a debit card, the bank does not have to protect you. And remember, if it's a debit card on a business account or a business credit card, you do not have the same protections as you do on a personal individual credit card or debit card. So that, be warned, that's just a thing. But other than that, yes, you can use a debit card just fine, and it does it just like it did the whole. I mean, the debit card would obviously have to have the Visa logo on it or MasterCard logo on it, but yes, it will work for a debit card.
Ken, did you say you had to use an internet connection to use?
No, I think that's something with the iPad though, and I just don't know why they aren't rolling Apple Pay out on it. But if you think about it too, it's like it's bad enough when you see people taking pictures of the big iPad. It's like, okay, let me put it in the window. Boom, I don't know. I don't know if there's a functional reason not, but they did put an NFC chip in it. But the rumors are that may just be because it's the same chip they use in the phone. All right.